Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mei Sim speaking. Welcome to 2020, dawn of the new millennium. I just want to get a quick show of hands. How many people here know that right now we are in 2020? Right, some people never raise their hands. I just want to make sure everybody is aware that we are 2020 right now, okay? And so, and I also want to ask another question. How many people know that 2020 is going to be, whoops, can we get that going? How about that? Okay, fantastic. Yeah? Okay, so great. Yeah, we just try to get this a little bit more stable, can we? How about now? No, it's still not stable. Jiahua, can you bring me the handheld mic? Oh, yes, thank you very much. Okay, actually, now it sounds okay, but it's a little bit unstable now. Okay. So I guess while my guys fix that, let's go with this for now, okay? And so I just want to know, okay, how many people know that 2020 is going to be a year unlike every other? Now, here's the thing, not everybody sure about that, okay? Some of you are like, yeah, confirm, right? Okay, and other people are like, okay, yeah, you know, that's why I'm here. Okay, now that's super legit, okay? So now today's talk is going to be all about 2020 and what's going to happen from here and beyond. Now, I'm going to make this very simple, okay? I'm going to summarize my entire presentation for you. I'm telling you that 2020 is going to be a year that's different from every other year combined. This is going to be a year of danger. It's going to be a year of opportunity. And the thing is, if you are prepared, this is going to be a defining year for you. Now, if you're not, it's still going to be a defining year for you, just not for the right reasons, okay? Okay, so today we are here to figure out what are all these dangers, what are all these opportunities, and what we can do about it, okay? Now, I just want to know, like, would you consider that a good use of your time? Right? Okay, everyone cool with that? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this year, I'm just going to zip through this very quickly, okay? Now, let's be real straight here. If you bought a ticket to come to this event, I suppose you know who I am, okay? So now, can I have a show of hands? How many people here have interacted with me? You've done my programs, you know who I am? Okay, so which is pretty much most of these people. Okay, now that's the reason why, now talking about me is not why we're here today. Okay, so I'm just going to zip right through this. But I want to also get a good sense of how many people here have never seen me, never heard of me. Anyone here? Okay, so there are a few people here, okay? So for your sakes, I'm just going to zip through this. And now my intention for doing this is not to show off. Now, I've done this 16 years. I've done this presentation multiple times, okay? Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is so that you can rest assured that anything that I'm presenting today is something that you can believe, okay? So let's get started now. My name is Mei Sim, and I'm the founder of Astrology Academy here in Singapore. I'm also known as Asia's #1 Western astrologer. I'm an international speaker. I've spoken on a few international platforms. And of course, I'm a professional astrologer. So I've been featured on multiple media, such as the New York Times Style magazine, multiple times. I've been consulted on things like how millennials are fitting into our world. And that's something that astrology can explain very well. I've also been consulted on things like fashion, but also I've been featured in magazines like iWeekly, Zula.sg. Those of you who are not familiar with Zula.sg, this is like a millennial online publication, more than once. And also last year, the Singapore Polytechnic sent a team to interview me to do a documentary. This is done by a Singapore Polytechnic team. I've also done talks for private organizations such as Facebook. So just so you know, as a bit of a tidbit, Facebook already has a lot of information about us. And you know, including your birthday. And just about 2 months ago, I was brought in by Facebook to teach a team astrology. Okay, and I've also done talks for people like Aviva, also private engagements with brands like Omega. And I'm probably the only astrologer in Singapore ever allowed to speak for a government organization. So I've done talks for Health Sciences Authority, and also for the Employability and Employment Institute. Okay, so all those people that you see on the screen, they've lost their jobs. And we are now using astrology as a way of helping them do career profiling. Okay, so just an introduction of some of the industry associates that we've worked with. I'm also the first Asian graduate from the International Academy of Astrology. So what you see over there, white faces and one yellow face, because I'm the first Asian to graduate from the IAA. So the IAA is one of 3 organizations in the world that give out degrees in astrology, and I'm their first Asian graduate. Today, I'm not just a graduate, I'm also a lecturer at IAA. I'm not just the only Asian lecturer, I'm also their youngest lecturer. And so other things is that I've done astrology for 16 years. My company's been running for about 6 years now. And over these years, I've had more than 2,000 clients. They come from 26 countries, from as far as Barbados, the Ukraine, Colombia. And among my clients, they're not exactly your housewives, okay? So among my clients include people who are regional directors of investment firms. My clients also include founders of technology frontrunners and international speakers and leaders from various industries. Now, some of you who are my clients, you are seated here in this audience right now, okay? And so my students come from 12 countries. Some of the fancier countries are Switzerland and Brazil. In fact, my Switzerland student is here in the audience today. Hi, Bettina. Nice to see you, okay? And so this, now that I've gotten past the nitty-gritties, right, this is just the introduction of who the speaker is today. Okay, now, at this point, I want to talk a little bit about the agenda. Why is it that I've gone and rented this big auditorium? Why have I invited you here? Now, there are a few events and patterns that you should, by now, be observing in the world that we can't quite explain. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few examples, okay? Number one, the world is changing. And can I just have a show of hands? How many people here are actively doing Facebook marketing right now? For yourself, for your business? Okay, there are quite a few people. And I want to show you something that I saw on Google recently. And I know this is kind of small, and I'm just going to highlight that. It says here that Facebook is rapidly losing millennials. So it basically means that millennials are not even using Facebook anymore. Now the question here is, how many of you are still struggling to learn how to run Facebook ads? Okay, so the thing is, we all know that things are going online. But with this, I'm actually trying to show you that online is not quite what you think, isn't it? It isn't, yeah. So, and there are some things that we all struggle to understand, especially if we are like a certain age and above, okay? Now, you all know what trending is on YouTube? You're not trending, right? So at any one time, if we go on YouTube, there are videos that everyone's watching. Now let me show you an example of a trending video. And this is a video called My Enemy Became My Slave. It's a cartoon. It doesn't even look very well drawn. Nobody even knows what's that, right? And many of you would probably never ever click on a video like that. But have a look at that. It generated 2.1 million views in 3 days. Now, if any of you here have put any YouTube videos on before, I suppose if you added up all the views for all your Facebook videos, there's a good chance you have never actually hit 2.1 million views in total. And these people with that video got 2.1 million views. Now, that's something that very few people cannot understand. Now, here's the thing. Astrology can explain why this is happening. Now, the next thing is that, of course, you started noticing that there's some changes in our industry. We've already heard that Sasa's gone, Forever 21's gone, and HomeFix is one of the earliest. And 2 days ago, one of my students told me that Bose, I don't know how you pronounce it, the audio system company, they're closing all their retail stores worldwide. Okay? And so the question is, some of you here in this audience are investors. And the question I want to ask you is, what basket are you putting your eggs into? And this is another thing that I saw on Google recently, and this was posted on the 8th of January. Today is the 18th, which means 10 days ago, a bunch of companies made an announcement that they are also closing their retail stores. Okay, and so in total, you see that that's more than 1,700 stores are closing. Guys, this is what I mean by a few thousand people in the world have immediately lost their jobs with just one announcement like that. Okay, no, basically my point is we are just getting started. And the reason why I've asked all of you to come here, now I know it's 1 week before Chinese New Year. Now I've asked you to come here because what I'm about to share is extremely important. Okay, and right now you're seeing in the retail industry, guys, we are just getting started. Okay, and so of course, I mean, I don't want to be just a doomsayer. There are going to be some emerging trends, and astrology is also giving us some valuable clues as to what trends are coming up. And if you want to be looking at the future, you want to pay a lot of attention to this. Now, I want to tell you something. Okay, this is super important. Now, I've been an astrologer for more than 16 years. Every time I do prediction, I do not need to tell everybody to look out for the shitty bits. You know what I'm talking about? Like every time people go to an astrologer, they kind of want to know what's not going to work, okay? What people are not very good at is looking at what will work, okay? So as I'm presenting today, some of the news may seem to you as being bad news. Okay, however, the thing is, news always comes in two sides. You know what I'm saying? What goes down comes up. Something else comes up, right? I would like you to pay special attention and take a special effort to think about what is coming up, okay? And so, I want to talk a little bit about how you're going to maximize today, okay? Now, first of all, let's say here that every single time that people go to an astrology event, you all know I'm an astrologer, right? Okay, now some of you have notes right now. And most people, what you want to get out of this is to write down as many predictions as possible. Okay, now I know some people have your pens ready, you're like, want me to say as much as possible. Now I want to say, you know how every year when we listen to the Feng Shui Master, go around like all the 12 animals? Okay, so if you listen to all the 12 animals, there are only 2 outcomes. Okay, now the first outcome is that you don't even remember what the fellow said already. Now that's the first outcome, right? You just listen for fun, okay? Now the second outcome is that you remember everything he says, but it didn't help you. Am I making sense? It didn't make your life better. Okay, and so what I'm trying to explain here is this. Now you don't want to walk away from today with a bunch of predictions because that is just not going to do you any good. And the other thing I want to say is that today, I'm talking about certain shifts that's happening in the world that is so massive that I'm not really sure your little list of predictions is going to help. Okay, so that's not what I'm going to do. It's going to require a mindset shift. Now, I'm going to tell you that there are some people in this world who have already shifted into that new mindset and they are already thriving. And I'm not lying to you, you can see these people around. Now, the quicker that we all start to shift into that, the better we are going to not just survive, but thrive in this new environment. Okay, so now if we're going to spend a bit of time together, all of us today, then we're going to need to set a few ground rules here, okay? Okay, number one is that I would like everybody to put your phones away and don't text while I'm talking. And I'll tell you why, okay? Now, if you're texting somebody during an event like this, what you're saying is that that person is a bit more important than you. Is that correct? Okay, so today, this event is for me to help you. I'm not so interested in helping them yet. Now, I'd like you to consider that if you do not know what is going to happen in 2020, you are not of very much help to the people around you. So let's focus on getting you up to speed first, okay? Now, I don't mind if you text non-stop during the breaks, and I will give you breaks, okay? But I'd like you to pay attention, because what I'm about to share is extremely important, okay? And number two is I'd like you to participate, right? And so studies have shown that if you participate a little bit more, you learn a bit more. I'd like everyone to consider that today you have already invested some time to be here. And you might as well reap the maximum out of May Sim, okay? Okay, now, number three is be on time. I'm going to give you 2 breaks in this afternoon, and each of these breaks are going to be 15 minutes. Now, if you look around, there's quite a lot of people here today, okay? So the thing is, it's not going to be possible for us to wait for every single person before we begin, okay? So when I say it's a 15-minute break, I'd like to ask everybody to come back on time, because I will start on time with or without you, okay? Is that okay? Can I get everyone to give me a thumbs up if this is okay, right? Okay, we're all in agreement here. Okay, number 4 is that I've asked, I think my team has gotten in touch with all of you to get your pen and paper ready. Okay, now I want to say something about note-taking. Okay, I've been a teacher for 16 years. I've taught astrology for a long time. Let me share a tip with you, okay? Now, if your brain and you are focused on recording things, if you're focused on taking pictures of slides, what you are going to get is a ton of data, but actually you understand nothing. Everybody got that? Okay, so, and rather than to have everybody go home with very unclear audio recordings, or even like you take pictures of 101 slides, and then you go home and you look at the picture and you're like, don't even know what this slide was about, right? Okay, so I'm going to offer every single person here a bonus that is even better, right? I hope that's okay, right? Now I'm going to make available to all of you a video of me doing a summary of the slides and all the content that I'm doing today, right? Can we all agree that this is better, okay? I'm going to promise you that it will be clearer, it will be more useful, and it will be more multimedia than whatever you can capture from where you are sitting. That's cool, right? Okay, so don't worry, you can just go ahead and pay attention. Then you may ask, what is the pen and paper for? Very simple. Now, when I'm showing you a concept, you want to think about it and ask yourself, how is that going to affect you? And then you write down your notes, because then your notes are going to make sense to you. Okay? So let's talk about today. My presentation is going to be divided into 3 components. Component number 1, I will talk about what's happening in the world. And number 2 is when I'm going to talk about which industries are affected. And I'm going to say with very big confidence here that more than 90% of you sitting here in this auditorium are in industries that will be affected. Okay? And number 3, I'm going to zoom in specifically on Singapore. And I'm also going to show you why, out of other countries, why Singapore might be more affected than other countries. All right, so here's the thing. You don't want to leave halfway through this presentation. If you miss the last portion, I guarantee you're going to regret for the next few years. Okay? And so I want to talk a little bit about disruption. It's quite clear I've set the pace right now, okay? And you need to be prepared. I will be talking a lot about disruption today. Now, every time you find that if an aeroplane is going in a particular direction, and all of you have planes going in a particular direction, if you have to change your plan, a lot of you are going to be a bit uncomfortable. Okay, and I would like to say right at the beginning of my presentation that I might say a few things that people are going to be upset with. Okay, and my students and my clients know me to be an extremely direct person, and it's quite clear I do not sugarcoat anything. Okay, my promise to all of you here today is that I'll be 100% honest. I will tell you the truth. I will hold nothing back. And this is my promise to all of you, okay? And I think it's probably better if you hear from my students directly.
She doesn't sugarcoat anything. She says it's not going to work, it's not going to work, and she writes it down. She lets me see why it's not going to work or why it will work.
It's very simple. Then we ask to ask the tough questions that we should be asking ourselves.
Very honest, very down to earth, and pretty straightforward in your face.
Okay, so you got it from them. I'm going to be quite direct, okay? Now, this word on the screen, who knows what this means? P. Okay, so those who know, please tell the person next to you who don't know, okay? Okay, so this word in Chinese is called P. In English, we say avoid. Now, we are all almost all Asians here, okay? And the real reason why a lot of people go to an astrologer is because they're trying to avoid bad things, right? I get it, I'm Asian too. Okay, but I want to say right from the start, May doesn't believe in avoid. To me, that is just pretending that an issue doesn't exist. And whatever I'm about to share with you today is not something you can avoid anyway, so let's just take that out of the picture, okay? I'm going to be asking a lot of tough questions today that you will probably want to answer. And my suggestion is that you don't avoid, then you deal with it, okay? So no avoid today. Okay, so this talk is going to be very useful, primarily for employees. A lot of you are going to have to change direction. A lot of you are going to have to make different plans. Now, just because you're a business owner doesn't mean you're exempt. You'll find some of you are probably going to have to take your business in a completely different direction. And quite a few of you here, I know many of you personally, there are quite a few investors here. And you may have put your eggs into specific baskets, and I think you might want to reconsider some things, okay? So with that being said, I think I've set my tone really well. I'd like to get started, okay? So let's go in straight away into number 1. Okay, what's happening in the world? And if you don't mind, some of you here are not familiar with astrology. That's true, right? Okay, so first of all, it's like, if you think that astrology is that 12 sign thing that you see at the back of the magazine, not quite lah, okay? So, and think about it, right? There are 7.2 billion people in the world, and there are only 12 signs. So let's just say if you happen to be a Capricorn, let's just say, there are 600 million Capricorns in the world. So what you don't want to do is to go to the magazine, see the back page, then Capricorn this year good for romance, right? Then you find that all the Capricorns good for romance this year. Come on guys, you know better than that. Okay, so astrology is a bit more complex. So let's go a little bit of astrology 101. This kind of astrology, 12 signs, is not really astrology, okay? Now if you allow me to have 2 minutes just to explain what astrology really is. This here, what you see on the screen, is a solar system. So that means you have the sun and all the planets go around it. Now when an astrologer asks for your birth date, it's like I press the pause button. So we pause, you know? And so that I want to see where the position of the planets is. Now on the other hand, also you find that the Earth is revolving on its own axis. Now this is the reason why an astrologer needs an accurate birth time. Because for example, I started this event at 1 p.m. By the time we finish, it's 6 p.m. So you find that this Earth just keeps going. Right now, it's 1 p.m. in Singapore. In New York, it is not 1 p.m. So that's why the chart is in Singapore, we say Tobalik. Okay, so this is what most of you are familiar with, 12 signs. And this is what an astrologer reads. Okay, so what you see on the screen there is my birth chart. As you can see, I'm totally transparent. I really don't care if you know my birth date or my birth time. I'm 35 years old. Okay, there's really no secret there. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. Completely transparent, I have nothing to hide. Now today, you are not interested in my chart. Okay, seriously, this is the chart that you're going to be really interested in. Singapore also have birth chart. Some of you here are business owners. Just so you know, business also got birth chart. Okay, so you may ask how to find your business birth chart. Very simple. Okay, when you apply for your ICRA, you know how you get an email from the government saying that congrats, your company is incorporated. We have people here in the audience whose profession is in incorporation, right? And so the minute you get your incorporation letter is your company's birth time. Now, what is Singapore's birth time? 9th of August, 1965. No surprise there. It is set for 10 a.m. because that's when the radio proclamation went out, where it was first announced that Singapore is now an independent country. Okay, so now this is the chart that I will be using, especially in the third portion of today's talk. So let me get started with an important concept that you're going to hear me talk about over and over again today. What you see on this screen here is a Jupiter-Saturn cycle, and there's a date on it. 22nd of December 2020 is a date that I think a lot of us are going to remember for a very long time. I shared this with a few people and everybody is interested, everybody is writing it down. And then and they asked me, so what's going to happen on the 22nd of December 2020? And now this one's a trick question, okay? What's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing's going to happen, okay? Now, it's not exactly right, okay? It's not exactly right. Some things are going to happen, but you may not notice it, at least not at first. So that means, are you expecting to see like an explosion on the street? Nah, that's not what's going to happen, okay? There are things going to happen, and I'll show you later how things happen and why you are going to remember this date for the rest of your life. Okay, that's my promise. So when I talk about Jupiter-Saturn cycle, what do I mean? So your solar system, and you know those of you who run your 2.4, right? You know some people run very slow, some people run very fast. Sometimes your friend runs so fast, he lap you. You know what I'm saying? So that there are times when the planets meet side by side, like this. So when they meet, so for example, let me give you an example. Okay, now these two planets, very funny one. They meet every 20 years. Every 20 years, they will meet at the same part of the sky. This is an example. In 1921, there was a conjunction in Virgo. And then 20 years later, in 1941, they met again in the sky. Okay, so this part, that's all I need you all to understand. Now, this is a timeline. And let me show you why this is so groundbreaking and how it relates specifically to 2020. In this timeline, I like to start from very far back in history. Let's begin from 1742, when it was in red color, means it is a fire sign. In Western astrology, there are 4 elements. fire, earth, air, and water. In 1742, it begins there, and then 20 years later, still red color. So it's red color, still fire sign. And then again, fire sign. Something happens in 1802. It changes into earth. So then, after that, strangely enough, it goes back to fire. Okay, everyone following so far? Okay, I'm simplifying this really well, okay? And then what happens is in 1842, now you want to pay special attention to 1842 because something very strange happens in 1842. Watch this, 20 years later, 20 years later, 20 years later, 20 years later. Can you see that? Okay, so what happened in 1842? Anybody knows? What was the major thing that happened in 1842? Anybody? Do I hear the Industrial Revolution? Everybody knows what that is? Okay, so now what happened is, from 1842 onwards, it became into earth and it didn't change. That means it's earth, 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 earth. Okay, so now this is the world that we all know. It's not just your world, it is your mother's world, it is your great-grandmother's world, it is your great-great-grandmother's world. Am I honest? You'll get this? So this is, the last 200 years is the world that we know. And then what happened in 1981? Some of us here are old enough to remember 1981, right? And in 1981, the world changed again. And some of you will start to remember 1981, something called the computer showed up. Suddenly, everyone's house had a computer. Okay, and then, strangely enough, it goes back to Earth. That's the year 2000. And then 20 years later, plus 20 is what? 2020. It comes into Aquarius. Now, there's a reason why I'm making such a big fuss about this 2020 thing. And let me show you what happens after this. Because can you look at how we have been very, very used to the earth element? And what happens after 2020 is that it goes into air. And it doesn't come back. It does not come back. So that means, in very simple terms, we are going from earth to air, and it doesn't come back to the same element, okay? What does this all mean? So if you want to know how does this transition mean, let's go back in history, and I want to show you what happened when fire became earth. Is that okay? See, the way we do prediction, it's not like me put my hand out there and like, wow, because I feel the energy, okay? It doesn't work that way, I'm a very practical astrologer, and I hope you hold me to that. I hope you demand this of me, right? If we look at history, and if it always happens that way in history, that's how it works, okay? So let me show you that when we look at fire, there are certain words that we are looking at, okay? So for example, those of you who have been to Europe, and you started looking in the 1600s, 1700s, the kind of architecture that they have there, did you see grand? If you go to China and you look at the things like the Forbidden City, suddenly everything is grand. For most of us, you look at a building like that and you go like, not practical leh. You know, how long did they take to build that? You know, it's like, to us, it's not very smart, right? And you look at how fiery these people were. Last time, they fight for what? Pride and honor. You know this, right? Okay, then creativity was at its all-time high. Just so you know, during the fire era was Shakespeare, Mozart, that kind of people, you get the idea, okay? And wonder and discovery. We find out all the great scientists were there. Adventure. Do you remember Ferdinand Magellan, Christopher Columbus? People who get onto a boat because they are going out there to discover a new world. Okay, everyone got that? There's aggression, there's conflict. The arts was big. Handel, Vivaldi, they all came from that period. Now, as I'm showing you these words, what I want you to realize is that these words, they kind of don't really belong in our world. They don't belong in our world. We don't recognize these words anymore. You go and tell your mother, or you want to do what? The arts. Then people laugh at you, right? Religion, philosophy, all these things. Action, judgment. Okay, now what happened here is, now let me show you in pictures, okay? I think some of you don't do so well with words. As I'm showing you these pictures, I want you to think about how all these pictures they are like Hollywood movie, you know. You don't see in our world anymore. And they either come out in movies or books. So you see, last time fights were for honor. And you find that, you know, royalty was number one. Every country had royalty last time. Now don't have already. Now got royalty is like they like decoration, you know what I mean? Okay? So last time, there was no question, the queen come, you bow, right? There's no, like, people go like, why must bow to the queen? Last time, okay, and last time it used to be that if you're a man, you join the military. Okay, nowadays for us, if you're a man, you better get a job and make some money. You know, it's not quite. You know what I mean? This is not our world, you know. And then exploration is adventure. When was the last time you heard somebody went and joined the Pirates of the Caribbean? You know, this is not our world. Okay, art used to be for expression. Nowadays, art, I don't know. There's a different purpose for art nowadays. Okay, last time science used to be for discovery. Consider how a lot of these guys, people like Kepler, people like Galileo, they used to have rich people sponsoring their research. You know, and you know what? These rich people, they don't ask for ROI one. They never ask for you to like submit your Excel sheets and nothing like that. Last time don't have. And so what I'm trying to show you everybody here is that some of these words used to rule the old world. And what happened here was the Industrial Revolution happened. The question here is, how long did it take for the world to become like last time to the world that we know today? Do you actually know? It happened really, really quickly. Okay? Now, what happened was the entire world's mindset suddenly changed to what we recognize today. And in the following images that I'm going to show you, suddenly, and I trust me, a lot of these images, I tried as much as I can to get very old images, those black and white ones, you know. And you'll find that even though it's a very long time ago, we know this is our world. Okay, so for example, factories came up. And suddenly people were not soldiers anymore. You know how you all watch Game of Thrones, right? And then they always ask like, how many men have you got? Then they say 10,000, then 20,000. You know, last time population equals fighters. Nowadays, population equals workers. Okay, so this happened, everybody started moving to the big cities, everyone got a job. You need to remember, prior to 1842, most people did not have a job. Okay? And so this is a very old photograph. But you see, actually, if you think about it, right, 200 years ago, but actually the world never changed very much, right? This is still the world that we know, right? What does our world look like today? You also worker, right? It's like when we talk about population, all we think about is how many workers a country has. And you found that last time, long time ago, 1819, our friend Sir Stamford Raffles came and visited us here in Singapore. Now the question is, did he come here because exploration? Was this the same reason as Christopher Columbus? You all remember what's the reason why he came here? He was looking for a port. Right? So what I'm trying to say here is that when the world changed, you found that suddenly exploration is like got dollar sign one. Everyone got that, right? The dollar sign started showing up. And you find that for those of us today, actually exploration is still money. So as we start to learn foreign languages, some of us went overseas. You move, you say in your language that, oh, my business want to expand to another country. Is it for exploration, for joy of discovery? Not really, right? We are doing it for money also, okay? And also, you know, actually the truth is, around the time 1842, this is Queen Victoria, by the way, they changed the parliament thing. So basically now they want constitution. And so now, actually, the sad truth is no one cares about royalty anymore. And you find that this hasn't changed, like no one still cares, right? So they're on the news, but who gives a damn, right? Okay, so the thing is, no one cares about royalty. Suddenly our priorities have shifted in a really, really big way. Right? And of course, we saw that some countries rose. Now, the USA was not a superpower during the FIRE era. They were not. They started rising because they industrialized very quickly. So the rise of countries with money, and if you know what, nothing's changed too. This is also the rise of countries with money, right? You all recognize that country, I hope, okay? So that's how Singapore rose. We're very good at things like efficiency, productivity, and money management, okay? Science and technology was still around, and suddenly it wasn't for discovery anymore. People not like, wow, got new star. Yeah, now don't have like that already. Yeah? Now people care about like, can your technology or your science make me faster, better, more money? Everyone get this? Okay, this hasn't changed. And in fact, science grew to include medicine. And maybe I'm going to give you a different view of health. You see, when health improved, what it meant was that you live longer. And the good news is that if you live longer, you can work longer. That's the idea, right? Okay, so even medical science is also for productivity. Okay? And so, you find that around the Industrial Revolution, for the first time, people started sending their kids to school. Last time, never go school one. Last time, they don't care whether you can read or write or not, okay? And so, this hasn't changed still. In Singapore, that's the reason why we go to school. Real reason, not really because you like to learn, right? Okay, and so, and we also talked about maximizing the earth. Whatever you can pump, you pump. Whatever you can mine, you mine. this hasn't changed, right? We are still doing that. Now, why am I showing you all this? It's that what I'm trying to say is that we can look at the far history and say, this one is last time people. But actually, if somehow there is a special line, that after we cross that line, although we say this is long time ago, this is last time people, actually the world never changed. I'm making sense, right? So that means there's something that's run for a long time, and those of you who are very good at seeing patterns are starting to see where I'm going with this. That means 2020 is a line. There's a line here. So that means if you thought it was a little bit scary that the world changed from fire to earth, I'm saying that right now in 2020, that line is the 22nd of December 2020. Today is the 18th of January 2020. We are 11 months away. Right? So that's how important that date is. So these are the words that used to rule the Shakespearean era, the Mozart era. People got all the white color wigs, right? Yeah, guess what? Disappeared. All those words disappeared. And so, what was born is our Earth era. Now, I'm going to show you a bunch of words. You will recognize these words. Now, as I go through each one, I'd like each of you to really go and think about how much of your life revolves around those words. Okay, so an easy way to think about is like today is Saturday, right? You know how on Monday you go to work and then you finish on Sunday, right? In any given week, if you find that you use any of these words in your text messages, in your emails, if you do marketing and you find that these words are there, you have a conversation with someone at work and these words are there, okay? I'm going to start. Number one, productivity. Do you use it every day in your emails? Possessions. Now, when I say possessions, I also mean like stuff, things. You know how when you talk about your furniture, your luggage, it's like stuff, things that you own, you know? How about social status? Okay, how about profit? Who uses the word profit every day? Almost, right? You're honest, the rest not so honest. Actually, we use it, right? How about value? We talk about it all the time. How about efficiency? This one, okay, who use efficiency at least once a week? At least once a week, okay? How many people's jobs here revolve around efficiency? That's the whole point, right? Systems? Whose job here revolves around systems? Okay, the rest all lying. Okay, materialism. Okay, so when I talk about, of course we don't use the word materialism in our language, but it comes up, isn't it? Like everybody is just looking at who's making more, whose house is bigger, whose car is bigger. And we also talk about achievement. And that's why when we talk about like rankings, who got an award, talk about credibility. It's why we go to university, it's why we even care about the award. Building. Now, when I say building, I don't mean like construction building. As long as we are building anything, you build a company, you build a whatever. Now, words like these are last time they don't use. Assets. Lots of us here have entire businesses, entire careers built around assets. Health. Problem fixing. This one, I think everybody is involved. Okay. Rankings. Some of us here really care about rankings. How about corporate? That's another word that we use all the time. Money and costs. Okay, you'd be lying if you said you didn't use these words every day. Affordability, time, ROI. Now that's a favorite one, right? We all love ROI. How about cost benefit? Manufacture, image, professional. And as I get further, luxury. The last three are going to hit a lot of people, okay? Investment, retirement, savings. Who recognizes these words? You use them every day, right? The line is coming. What I'm trying to say here is that the Earth era is all these words are going to disappear as quickly as those fire words. Now, from 1842 onwards, the Industrial Revolution came into full force. Most of us go like, yeah, but then the digital revolution also what? Then I say, yeah, last time, they also invented the spinning jenny, they invented a few steam engines, that kind of stuff. Did you know what happened in 1842? Somebody decided to invent the assembly line. Somebody decided that an engine, the engine that we know today, was invented. And what it meant was that suddenly the factory needed to hire thousands and thousands of people. Guess what the farmers did? They sent their kids to the factory. That's what happened, right? Do you know how fast it took, guys? Some of you here, any history buffs, you know how fast it took? 6 years, right? In England, the majority of people were like doing other trades, which I'll show you later. And in 6 years, the majority of them suddenly became workers. 6 years. And that is last time where they got no internet. Now we got internet, things instant one, you know. I'm just saying, guys, like, see, that's why I'm telling you this is important. Everybody, all of us here, our livelihood is on the line. From 1842 onwards, the world changed forever from fire to earth. And from 2020 onwards, the world, the earth world that we know is going to change forever. Now let me show you. This is what's going to happen. Right? So basically everything that we used to know from the past disappears. It goes into a color. This color, we're not familiar. Okay? And unlike some of you older folk, right? You know, if you are a parent and you have kids who were born after 2000, if you work with very young people in your organization, have you noticed that they like a bit from another planet? I'm making sense, right? You know, these parents, you ask your kids go to school, you tell them you don't pass exam, next time you got no future. They don't agree with you. Okay, so just saying, okay. So which means all these words that you relate to, they're going to disappear. And what it means now, some of you are going to ask me like, okay, what are we going to expect here? Now this is why, now you start to understand why May is asking you to sit here 1 week before Chinese New Year, and it's important. Okay. Now change happens in stages. It's not going to be like one bell ring, then we all die, you know, it's not like that, okay? Now, let me start a little bit with the recent history, something that at least we all kind of recognize, okay? Now in 1981, it moved into air for the very first time. So I'm going to show you how these are. So the thing is, okay, 1981, we had a sneak preview of what air is like. Some of us here are old enough to remember exactly what happened, okay? And even if you are not, if you are born in the 1980s, you grew up with this, right? I was born in 1985. I grew up with all of these. Now, I'm going to show you a few images. And the theme that I have given to 1981 to 2000, and just in case you all don't know, I just found this out not very long ago, okay? Did you know that millennials are people who are born in that period? Now, I've just found that out. Okay, so apparently I'm a millennial. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few images, and I characterize this as, it's called OMG, what is that? So that means whatever images I'm showing you means that the world has never seen anything like that before, prior to 1981. And every time it came out, it changed our lives. Okay? So that means if you understand what this air thing means, it tells you that from 2000 onwards, you should be expecting this times 10. Why? Because during the Industrial Revolution, when we first saw the earth thing starting to show up, there were a few inventions that came up. Right? And people started to see like, oh, steam engine, you know? But from 1842 onwards, it was like, boom, everybody went to the cities. Right? You all got that? Okay? So, I'm going to show you 1981. Let's go down memory lane, shall we? Okay? Number one, 1981, the IBM Model 5150 was launched. Okay? So this was the first time that the computer started to look like the one that we recognize. Okay? Last time computer looked a bit funny. Okay? So this one we can recognize. It changed the world. Now, in 1981 also, 3 games were launched. Right? Who remembers these games? Who played these games? Like, seriously, right? I did, okay? And now think about it, right? How did this change the world? Because, you know, children have always loved toys. Always. Since like thousands of years ago. 1981 changed that. Suddenly, they don't want toys already. They want Nintendo. Yeah, makes sense, right? And you know how the kids haven't changed since then? Right? How many, like Christmas just over, right? You know, I bet with you, a lot of your kids probably preferred a mobile app to whatever toy you got from Toys R Us. You know what I mean? Okay, so now it changed the world, okay? And also things like 1982, the 3.5-inch floppy disk. Who here actually had one of those things? Really? You sure? You look like you are like teenager. Yeah, but the point is now this changed the world, because in the past, all through history, whether in the Jesus time when you write on the stone, right, all the way until like when we had paper and you wrote on paper, for the first time in human history, you didn't have to write anything. It was a square thing that you carry around. This is the precursor to our USB drives. It's the precursor to our Blu-rays and God knows what other cloud drives that we have nowadays. Okay, and 1983, the first commercial mobile phone came up. Right? Who remembers this? The brick, right? And so, and this changed our lives because it meant that you kind of didn't need a landline anymore, right? And you realize haven't changed very much since then, right? This is what our lives. 1988, the first digital camera showed up. for once, you didn't have to go to Fuji and wash your film, you know? It's like suddenly you could just stick a memory card into your computer. Now, this changed our lives. Because then this is the precursor to why we even have Instagram nowadays, you know? And the www that we take for granted nowadays was born in 1989. It's been 30 years since it was first launched. Are you getting this? Like, that means 1981 to 2000. Now, we started the world, the whole human consciousness changed. Okay, and this one is the people, like dial-up internet, right? You all remember this, right? Okay, so the one where your mother will scold you because then they call and then you're online, right? That one, okay? Yeah, this one's gone now, but it's the precursor to all the internet we have nowadays. You know, the smartphone was born in 1994. For the first time, a phone could accept email. Okay, and you know how we are all addicted to social media nowadays. Now, this is the world's #1 first social media site. It was launched in 1997. It was called 6 Degrees because they believe that all humans are linked 6 degrees of separation, right? Now, and the thing is, you know, in Singapore, let's go back to Singapore. That one is all the Angmo stuff, right? Okay, we talk about Singapore. And you know, just now I gave you a date. I said 22nd of December 2020 is very important. I said that things will happen. But to you, it's like nothing. Now, some of you here are a little bit older than 1981. You were born before that. The date where the shift happened in 1981 was 1st of July. 1st of July. Now, those of you who are older and you were alive at the time, chances are you didn't notice anything happen. You walk on the street, got no explosion. You didn't notice. But here's what happened. Look at it. Wikipedia says that Mr. Sim Wong Hoo started Creative Limited on the 1st of July. Now, I don't know about you, maybe you don't think much of this, but you see, prior to 1981, the world a bit don't care about Singapore. You know, we were like that small, don't know where country, right? But you see, for us, the consumer electronics thing started to grow in large part thanks to Mr. Sim's company, right? And so this was started 1st July 1981. Now, there are other things that happened in 1981. Changi Airport was launched in 1981, 1st of July. And that was also the date that Singapore Airlines flew its very first flight. Now, if you think about it, prior to 1981, the world never really gave much of a damn about Singapore, right? And the only things that Singapore are known for nowadays, pretty much your Singapore Airlines was launched on 1st of July, 1981. Now, if you're older than that and you walk on the streets, right, like nothing happened, it's like same, you know, every day, just go Sheng Siong and buy. Last time, no Sheng Siong, okay? But, okay, but my point is that, you know, things happen. And, you know, very shortly after that, NTI, which is known, the precursor to NTU, was launched 1st of August 1981. Guys, there's a lot of shit that happened in 1981. You know what I mean? And these are, you notice that they are all technology stuff. They are all air things, okay? And also, in 1981, 1st of September, the National Computer Board was formed. Okay, now, this board is like, maybe not so important nowadays, but in 1981, it was very important. Because it meant that, you all know what this National Computer Board is now? It is the date, like last time, all documents is paper and pen one, you all know, right? Now, in 1981, the Singapore government decided that the civil service was going to be the first to introduce electronic, digital. So this National Computer Board meant that they changed all the stat boards, all the government agencies, everything to digital. And because they started first, which means the rest of the country followed. Everyone got that? Okay, so that means 1981 a bit important to Singapore. So if this has happened before, why would not 2020 be also very important to Singapore? I'm making sense? Right? So history repeats itself. If a lot of things happen in 1981 that is crucial to Singapore, history will repeat itself. Okay, so now 1981 to 2000 is like OMG, what is that? And then the weird thing was that in 2000, it went back to Earth again. Okay, now Earth, if you recall, are all the money words. And then suddenly the money thing came back to technology. Okay, I'd like to ask some of the slightly older people here, right? Who remembers MIRC? Who used it? MIRC. Need to pay or not? MIRC. Have you ever paid for MIRC? Was there a PayPal link? Did they send you to a landing page? No, right? Who here remembers ICQ? You do, right? Yeah. Did you pay for ICQ? Have you ever? Was there a PayPal link? Don't have, right? Who remembers Napster? Okay, admit it, you downloaded, right? Okay. My point here is this, okay? In 1981 to 2000, all the technology things that we had was pure technology. Last time, somehow people happy to put things online, they never charge money one. You know what I mean? Last time. And then from 2000 onwards, suddenly got money already. And from this period onwards, my nickname for it is called Bigger, Better, How Do I Make Money Out of That? That's what happened to technology. Okay, and so I'm going to show you a few more images, and what you will see is even though all these things didn't technically charge you any money, but perhaps you became their money. Okay? So, and also the other thing is that there isn't the OMG, what is that? That means the world is not shocked anymore. You all have seen this stuff before. So in the end, it's just maybe better or more improved technology, but it's not special. Okay, and so in 2003, Skype. Last time ICQ got no video, so now Skype introduced video. And then this one is the one that we all know, Facebook. Everybody's scrolling that way, right? So 2004 it was started. YouTube also was started 2005. This was its original launch. Last time don't have so many images. Okay. Usually right now we are not usually being charged to use all these things, but I think everyone here understands that every time you upload something, it's money, right? That means Facebook has wealth because they have all your information. Every picture that you post is their data. Okay. And now, of course, I said the smartphone was invented in 1994, and what happened was in 2007, Apple decided iPhone, right? And then from that moment on, it was like, okay, apps got to pay money one, like not free one, okay? And so what came after that was also, they decided that since there was so much money in technology, then might as well just make technology into money, so that they invented Bitcoin, right? In January the 3rd, 2009. So this is the part that we all recognize. And what happened was, in between 2000 and 2020, which is right now, what we are doing is we put money into technology. In 1981, we put technology into our lives. In 2000 to 2020, we put money into technology. Everyone got that? Some of us here are building apps. Some of us here have websites. Some of us here are trying to figure out like Facebook marketing, a couple other things. Now I'd like you to consider that the kind of technology that you and I'm guilty as well, that we engage in technology mainly because you're trying to make money out of it. Every time you sit down with an app developer, your first question is, what's the ROI? You're going to charge me 20,000 for building an app, right? How much money can I make out of it? What's your reach? You know what I'm saying? These are the words that we use all the time. And I'm just saying that maybe that's a little bit outdated already. And it's going to shock a lot of people. And quite a lot of you here are in actual trades where this is exactly what you sell. This is what you sell. And when this is no longer being used right now, it's a little bit like trying to sell people, I don't know, you try and sell kids like some action figure nowadays. Which kid is going to buy action figure? Really? Seriously, those of you with kids, right? Your kids do not want an action figure, right? Okay, so the question here is now, from 2020 onwards, what can we really expect? Okay, so I'd like to recap here. Okay, so that means we are going from fire to earth. And then from 2020 onwards, we're not going to see that earth ever again. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. And from 2020 onwards, this earth bit is going to disappear forever. And that's why, if you really start looking at some of the systems that we are using right now, it can really be quite scary. And seriously, I mean, if you look at this entire list, you want to think about from a daily perspective, right? If these words disappear, what will happen to your jobs? From December 2020 onwards, nobody cares about all these words anymore. And I think what we are all very interested in right now is that if you look at how quickly all these words disappeared, and as we look forward into the air era, okay? Now, what I'm going to do here is that I know it's a little bit early, but I would like to call a break right now, okay? When you come back from the break, let me give you a very clear idea of what you're going to expect here, okay? Now, the reason why I'm calling a break so early in this talk is because I have a lot to share later, okay? And what I want everybody to do during this break is to sort of get in the mood here. You see, when I started this talk, I was very concerned that I think I'm saying something that Singaporeans are not going to accept. Because then our lives revolve around these things. It's a bit shocking, okay? And so when we come back from the break, I'm going to share more about what are these air trends. Because if you're smart, you want to pay attention to these things. Because that's where your career is going to be next. The faster you switch, the faster you survive. Okay, and so here's the thing, I promised you earlier that I'm going to give you a way to get the summary of this video. Now I'm going to need a way to, and there's really a lot of you here. There's no way that we're going to be able to track exactly who is going to need that video. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Okay, now if you share your heartfelt comments on social media during break with the hashtag #MaySim. Now, what is it that you actually share? The thing is, can I enroll everybody here with this idea that until right now, it's because I showed you a few slides, didn't I? And the thing is, before you walked in here, you didn't think that 2020 was going to be very special. Now consider that the people in your workplace and the people in your families, they're not going to understand this, right? Unless I'm going to pass you this video, because the point is I need you to go and tell to as many people as possible, right? We're going to need to make some changes here. Okay, so if you share your heartfelt comments on social media during break with the hashtag #MaySim, I will send you a video summary of today's content. It's going to be multimedia. It will be more useful than any photograph that you can take of my slides. Okay, you want to make sure that it's set to public so that we can track this. Okay, now there are a couple of restrooms here. Ladies want to take note. Usually the ladies' restroom has a long queue. There is one on the first floor. And for ladies, if it's a really long queue, you want to go look at the second floor too. If you're not really sure how to find this, my guys who are in white with tag will be able to guide you, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a 15-minute break. I'd like everybody to think about what this means for your career. Because when we come back, what I'm going to cover is the industry outlook. I'll give you specifics on exactly which industries are going to be affected, exactly what is going to happen to each industry, okay? And I'd like you to come back refreshed, and we will come back in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. Hello, we are back for the second portion. And I hope everybody has taken a good break. Now in the second half, perhaps not the second half, our second section, I think I'm going to give everybody a little bit more information about specifically the exact industries that are going to be affected as we switch away from the Earth era. And I hope everybody understands what I mean by, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that 90%, easily, at least 90% of us are going to be affected by this change. Okay, and so this is where I get into the industry outlook. Now you see, the whole point of me doing this is not really to like sort of scare people. The way I see it is like I'm doing a bit like a public service announcement. I was having a bit of a conversation with a friend very recently, and this lady had sort of suggested to me that actually nobody really has a solution for this. So that means in this second section, I fully expect that quite a few people are going to get a bit upset at what I'm going to say. The main thing is because this is not the world that we grew up in. Most of us here are at least 20 years old and above. Some of us are maybe until 60, perhaps even older. And the thing is, we've all lived decades of our life in a completely different kind of world. You see, you may think that, oh, you know, the kids are a little bit rebellious nowadays. You know, it's like that, 19-year-olds, they don't want to go to school. And you thought maybe last time you were like that also. Actually, you were not. If you think about it, yeah, you were a bit naughty perhaps as a teenager. But you know, when the exam time comes around, somehow you just own self go and study. You know what I mean? It's like you actually care whether you pass the exam or not. I'm just suggesting that right now, the kids genuinely don't care. So that means, and one of the things that I want to show you as I go through this industry outlook. Now when I say the kids don't care, I don't mean that they don't want to do well. I'm just saying that they are not invested in being that top student, not like the way we were. Okay, now as I'm going through each of these industry outlooks, I am well aware that I'm going to put some people in a bind, okay? A very easy way for you to think about things is, as I go through each one, I'd like you to sort of like recall some of the news that you have started seeing in the newspapers. I want you to sort of think about what are the trends that have come out and decide whether #MaySim is lying or not, okay? Another way that you might want to think about it is like, look at, if you happen to know anybody who is below the age of 20, say between 15 to 20 years old, ask yourself if you see them entering these professions. And if your honest answer is no, that means your profession is in trouble. I hope I'm making sense. Right? I sometimes get consulted by various professionals on recruitment issues, right? Mainly because I do astrology, and it's a great way of knowing where to put people, where their fundamental skills are. And recently, I've been consulted by a lot of people from specific industries. And if I want to be really open my heart out, like if I'm going to stand on stage here, I might as well be really honest with everybody, okay? There are some people who have consulted me, and it's not always that I kind of know what to say to them, because there are certain industries where it really doesn't matter what you do. Somehow, you know, the youngsters, they're just not joining you, okay? And so I hope that I like to sort of apologize in advance if I'm going to offend anybody, that if your entire business is in any of these professions, please forgive me. I have promised you that I will be honest here today on stage. I have nothing to gain from putting any industries down. After all, I am an astrologer. What do I have to gain from this, right? And so, here we go. And so, as with whenever I do prediction, I like to look at the past, okay? Because this is a reliable way for us to sort of anticipate and predict how are we going to experience certain things that are coming up. Now let's look again back at 1842, because 1842 is our benchmark for 2020. Now, although I keep saying 2020, you need to know that the date that it happens is in December, like Christmas time, right? So what this means is that whenever I say 1842, for them, it's like really that year, right? But for us, the change actually really happens not in 2020, but in 2021. Right? You understand that because it's December, right? And so there is a very good reason why I decided to do this event in January. I know it's 1 week before Chinese New Year, but if you see it from my perspective, I would like you to have as much time as possible to prepare. Right? Everyone get that? Okay, because if you're going to make a switch, it's not like you can switch tomorrow. And given 11 months, a year, at least we are talking about potential time for you to make the changes that are necessary. So in 1842, what happened was that some industries suddenly disappeared. Okay, and this is the reason why I made such a big fuss about it, because if you're in any of the earth industries which I think are going to disappear, you might want to make some alternative plans. Okay, and so now let me look at history and tell you what are some of the industries that died. And partially because we have the benefit of hindsight. Right? And so now, as a modern educated people, we can sort of look back and say, oh, that's why they died, you know? Okay, but so we kind of have to apply that same kind of objectivity to our industries right now. Okay? And so, first of all, art. Art used to be really big, okay? Like Casanova, Blake, William Blake, were from this era. And the thing is, nowadays, seriously, if you go and tell your mom that you want to do art, I don't know, man. It's like, don't say your mother laugh at you, even your friends laugh at you, you know? And it used to be that religion and philosophy were legit professions, okay? Anybody here knows any professional philosophers? Disappeared. Now, it used to be a legit. Like, if you really look at history, right, it's all of the great philosophers from that period. It was technically possible to make a living as a philosopher in those days. Now, religion is still kind of big today. Now, I know some people go and tell me, Singapore got some people do religion can make quite a lot of money, okay? Yeah, I tell you, I'm put in a difficult position, okay? I'm in a public sphere right now, okay? So, like, you forgive me if I'm not specific sometimes, okay? And, but you see, what I'm trying to suggest here is that if you look at religion as its original archetype, now you can make money from it if you run it like a corporation. That's what I'm basically saying, okay? And anybody who has made money in our time had to run things like a corporation. So if you think about a lot of the institutions that we run nowadays, things like hospitals, for example, where you wouldn't normally think that its original purpose is profit, right? And so there are other purposes here. But you see, the only way to have it going and to actually sustain it is to run it like a corporation. The same thing that we've done with charities. Everyone agree? Okay? And so philosophy, bye-bye already. Okay? Next one, astronomy. Nowadays, we have astrophysicists. We may have NASA scientists. But you don't get an astronomer anymore. Quite frankly, in Singapore, I could potentially be the closest that you will find to an astronomer, right? It's like I probably have the most qualifications in astronomy than anyone else here in Singapore, even though I'm an astrologer. And so, how about sailing and discovery? Now, it used to be real that the queen would finance these things. Like, they would just buy a ship, right? And then they would just put all these guys on it, and the idea was just to sail wherever and see what you find. And it used to be, people got really excited with the discovery of it. Now, I'm not saying that sailing it has disappeared completely. You can technically still sail. I mean, if you join certain logistics, cargo kind of companies, or you could join the Navy. But my point is that the original kind of sailing, bye-bye already. Now, I'm going slow with this because I'm really trying to get everybody to understand why certain industries disappear. Because I have a really good sense that later when I start going to the Earth once, some people are going to get really upset with me, okay? And so, I'm going slow here. And so, how about music? You need to know that during this period, Vivaldi, Bach, Handel, Mozart, you know, in those days, because they don't have YouTube and they don't have MTV, right? You literally had to just put out live concerts. And the thing was that if we think nowadays, honestly, are there any musicians that you really put on the same level as Mozart? Probably not. I mean, they make a lot more money than he did, but you wouldn't rank them on the same level. And nowadays, music, you could really only do it if you did it, again, the corporation way. So in our time, you could maybe make money if you sold platinum copies of your CD. And nowadays, no CD even, right? And so, and also the military. And here I put mass. Now, of course, the military is still around, okay? But in the past, it used to be that if you joined the military, you expected to fight. That means if you watch a lot of your Game of Thrones or whatever, seriously look at the history of the world. During this period, the 200-year period where we had the fire, it meant that if a boy joined the military, it's like confirmed fight one. Which is why if you look at all these old folk songs, right, the whole point was that the fellow went off to war and then the girlfriend is like bye-bye one, you know? And so there was no such thing as what they sit around and do drills. No. I mean, if you look at the way we run our military nowadays, it's a lot more defense, maybe more administration than actual fighting, right? And not just in Singapore, but in most countries around the world. Okay, and now serving royalty used to be a million human industry. You know, it was this is last time we call iron rice bowl. Right? If you in China it was like that too, if you recall, right? In China it was like that. You could literally just go and get yourself into the palace and you pretty much iron rice bowl already. You know, as long as you don't step on the wrong toes, right? And so now this just completely died. Think about it, right? In countries like in England, most of the politics, business, it was entirely based on serving royalty. In the past, you could be rich if you were a relative, a good friend of the queen. That's how it worked, right? I know I'm talking about things that sound like some Hollywood movie, but guys, it really wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? It was maybe, 250 years ago? Not that long, okay? Handmade anything. Right? So basically, once the Industrial Revolution came out, it's like you make one by one, I tell you, gone case, right? Because the machine churns out 10,000 at a go. Carpentry, traditional carpentry is gone. Blacksmiths, anybody know a professional blacksmith? You know what I'm saying? Gone, completely, utterly wiped out. And tailors, now tailors exist. But you know, it wasn't the same as in the past. In the past, you wear anything also is tailor. Anything, right? And nowadays, you know, a tailor is a luxury, isn't it? Something that you go to when your kids are getting married. And so, now horses, it's weird, right? You know, I put all these words and it's like, you're like, what is this, yeah? Right? Horses, you know, in the days before MRT, we all rode horses, right? And so, I suppose when the automobile came out, you really need to know what happened to all those horses. If you think about how many horses did people actually had to produce in those days? Thinking, you know what I'm saying, right? It's like the way you take MRT now was like how they used to take horses. So what happened to all those horses? I don't know, like, honestly. If you ask me, I don't know. Maybe if you have somebody here who is a horse expert, maybe you can educate us. Right? But the thing is, I believe that there used to be a ton more horses. Right? And the entire military, thousands and thousands of men rode horses. What happened to all those horses? I have no idea. Okay, so the thing is, right now, I've shared this content with quite a few business owners, and I've had a lot of skeptics. Because, you know, it's astrology and then it's like not credible, right? And some people have asked me like, but then the industry is so big. Look at what we are running right now. It's millions. We are producing millions. Like, then what's going to happen to all this product? Same as what happened to all those horses. Where did they go? I also don't know. Somehow the horses, I don't know, maybe they put them in one big cemetery. I have no idea. Really, what happened? I don't know. Now, the gunpowder industry used to be so big that they actually had this thing called the gunpowder empire. I have to tell you guys, I've done months of research just to do today's presentation. And let me just tell you, I've done more history than most people, okay? And there used to be a gunpowder empire. Like entire towns and cities are serving the gunpowder empire. Anyone who knows anything about gunpowder nowadays? It's like, it's totally gone. Now, the point I would like to make about this entire list right here, ladies and gentlemen, is that not all of the trades have completely disappeared. Are we agree? Like, there are still tailors around, right? But what I'm saying here is that the trades they are not being the same level as they used to be. Anybody say, oh, May Sim said that all these X industries are going to disappear forever. Well, that's not exactly what I said, okay? Now, when I say disappeared, it simply means that certain industries, certain professions where perhaps 5 or 6 years ago, you look around, like all your friends all in that profession one, right? It's very normal. It's like you just call the profession, you can easily name 10 people who are in that profession. It's not going to be like that. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, are some of these people still going to stick around? Yeah, I mean, are there horse people nowadays? Got lah. That turf club, there got lah. Okay, but how many? Not like last time. Not like last time, okay? And for some of these, like for example, art, religion, philosophy, I mean, if you were still into it, sometimes your livelihood is affected. It's fair? So, now in our time, from 1842 onwards, these industries, this list that I'm going to show you, these industries rose. And recently I had this one person, I went to a course recently and somebody asked me, well, could you give me a hint of which industries are going to die from 2020 onwards? And the hint I gave to them was this: if your industry did not exist prior to 1842, there's a very good chance that your industry is going to die. Okay, so that means whatever it is that you do right now, think about it. In 1840, were there people in your trade? And if your trade didn't exist, basically, you know how cycles work is whatever rises, falls when the cycle falls. I mean, that part everyone understands, right? It's a bit spiritual, but I think you understand, okay? And so, it will fall from 2020 onwards. So therefore, this is the list that you have been waiting for. I will begin with this because I know it will get everybody's attention, okay? Now, the industries at list, the first one is of no surprise to anybody. The very first one is called mining. So the thing is, the good news in Singapore, mining not that big, because we got nothing to mine, okay? But that's not saying that some of us may still indirectly, you know what I mean, right? Indirectly be into the mining industry. There are some small things, right? You realize that diamonds, people didn't used to really give too much, like two hoots about diamonds in the past. At least not until De Beers said that when you propose to your girlfriend, you better have one, right? And so the point is that I think a lot of young people maybe don't really care about the diamond anymore. Have you noticed? Young people don't. When I got married, I told my husband not to buy me one. And I told him, if you have, a few $1,000s sitting somewhere in your account, how about you buy me a kitchen instead? You know, at least that's going to last 20 years, you know? And actually, that will actually give me a meal, right? I mean, you can't eat a diamond. Okay, but you see, the thing is, and I'm not that young a millennial, right? It's kind of the trend now. People don't even want that diamond anymore, right? And so if you're in diamonds, I don't know, you might want to think about it, okay? Fuel. You've seen in the news, a lot of people are very angry about fuel, petrochemical. What's her name? Jane Fonda has been arrested, 82 years old, and she was arrested for protesting in the streets about this. So the good news is a lot of these companies are switching away from fossil fuels into renewable energy. You see, the company may survive. I'm not sure about the engineer. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you are a petrochemical engineer, maybe your big company, MNC, is going to survive. I'm not sure about you. And if you have 35 years experience in petrochemical, it's not so simple as going to JobsDB to apply for another job, you understand, right? Because nobody is doing petrochemical anymore, right? That's gone. Next one is going to upset a lot of people, construction. But here's the part that a lot of people go like, but then we kind of still need to build buildings, right? We kind of still need our condos and whatever. Now, I'm going to share a few more trends later. You see, I'm going to back everything I say up with astrology and good old common sense. Okay? So if I say construction is going to go down, surely there are certain trends that are happening right now that I think is going to result in construction pretty much gone case. Okay? Now, I'm not saying it's going to disappear forever. Come on, we still need to build buildings. We got that, right? We still need to build buildings. Humans have built buildings since the beginning of time. However, the question is, how many buildings? I'm making sense now, right? Now, if we build less buildings, maybe we might lose 40% of the industry, right? And there are certain traits within construction. Is a huge industry. There are certain processes that are disappearing. Are you all agree with that? Certain processes do not require a human, which means bye-bye, okay? I'll tell you later, there are some things that I think is very worrying, especially for Singapore, okay? And accounting is going to disappear. Now, somebody is going to have to read those numbers. Somebody. Is it going to die completely? No. We have some accountants here, some of you are my students, right? And so, the thing is, consider that if you have an accounting department, we kind of only need to keep the top person, and we ask that person to work a little bit harder, download their brain into a software, and then we fire the rest of the department. Kind of got that, right? That's how it's happening right now. That's the way it is, okay? And so, and you know, after the software is done, right, you fire the top guy too. Just saying, okay? You're only as good as they're still doing the software, okay? And yeah, so, and the other thing also is that there's a trend coming up, isn't it? Everything's going online. And so, if you think about certain words that are around in our vocabulary, think about the word bookkeeping. Can you tell me who keeps books anymore? In accounting, it's not even on books anymore, right? So the entire word is I don't know from what century, okay? And so what this means is that imagine right now you have an entirely online business, right? Your e-commerce, you maybe have like 100 products there. At any time, that means any moment, even at 2:30 a.m., if you decided that you wanted some kind of accounting, whatever, the only thing you need to do is press print. You know what I mean? You press print, you get your accounts, right? And you kind of don't really need a human unless you're doing something else. Maybe you need advice. But then you don't need advice from 100 people, you just need advice from one really smart guy. That's it, right? Okay? So next, private degrees. Okay, I'm talking about, you know how you go to the MRT station, and then they got all these companies that tell you that you can do a bachelor's degree in something, something, something. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so those companies are in trouble. First of all, I said young people a bit not interested in going to university really. So first of all, no one's signing up, which is why they're advertising. You get the idea, right? No one's signing up. If they're all signing up, why you need to run advertising, right? And so, and the thing is, why are they not signing up? Very simple, because they don't find jobs after they invested 5 figures, 2 to 3 years of their life, and then what's the worst part? No job at the end of it. So that's the truth, right? Is that the truth, guys? Right? I have family members who graduated last year in April from NTU in something, in a trade, not in something weird like me. I graduated with English literature. That one cannot find job, never mind, okay? But but you know, this family member of mine graduated in something called interactive media. You would have thought she would have found a job by now. She hasn't. It's been a year, and it's not like she's sitting at home doing nothing. You know, she's been. You can't even find a job. Interactive media, like guys. Private degrees are gone. Auditing and compliance is also gone. Okay, so now I'm not asking people to raise their hands and tell me what you're in. Okay, so you get the idea, okay? Now, why are auditing and compliance gone? Because a lot of industries are going to disappear. And if you think about it, the whole idea of regulating, think about the English word, regulating an industry assumes that there is an industry. And it assumes that there is a regulation. It makes sense, right? I mean, if you don't have a regulation, there isn't like 10 things that you must comply with, then you need an auditor for what, right? And let me explain something, okay? You know how there's a whole, I don't have a word for it, okay? Let's just say industry for now, okay? There's a whole industry of random people on YouTube doing makeup tutorials. You know what I'm talking about? The kind where they show you how to use your eyeliner, draw your eyebrow. Who regulates them? I also don't know. Who actually tells them, hey, by the way, you cannot use this brand? I don't know. It's like, you know, the video is like 2 minutes, right? I mean, who's regulating them? How are you gonna track these people? They produce 15 videos per day. You got enough people to track them. I don't know. What are your guidelines? How to say this one can or this one cannot? I don't know, really. Right? And so as auditing and compliance dies, as guidelines die off, then there are no auditors, there are no compliance. Things are just moving way too fast. Okay, next. Financial planning. quite a few of you here in financial planning. A lot of you here in financial planning, and I know you personally. That's going to go too. I was having a conversation with a few of my friends here in financial planning, and I brought something up, okay? Now, if I mention any company names, I'm not endorsing anybody and I'm not putting down anybody, okay? It's because I have a few hundred people here, and sometimes I need to mention a few examples so you know what I'm talking about, okay? Now, there's a company called FWD Insurance. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not in the insurance industry, okay? I have never actually met an FWD insurance agent. I have not met an agent from FWD yet. My understanding, my very rudimentary understanding is that you go to a website, and right now I think it's a little bit like the simple stuff, you know, travel insurance, car insurance, quite straightforward. But if you think about it, for most of us, millennials, okay, those of us who grew up with computer, it's quite acceptable, very acceptable, to go to a website where they have all these blanks, right? And there are 10 blanks, you fill it in, and at the end of it, there's a nice little calculator that tells you pay this amount, right? And what we do is we take out our credit card, we fill it in, and then it's done, finished, right? Next time, got cashless, even faster, okay? And so, the point is that then, is it a stretch to think that we could potentially buy life insurance from an online system as well, who could potentially do the calculations a lot faster than a human being? Just saying, without their opinions, without their personal subjective opinions, but then, you know, from just research, right? They give you an amount, you just pay, simple as that, right? Financial planning is in trouble. Okay, now I'm just saying that, is it going to disappear completely? Maybe not, but do we need like tons and tons and tons of these people? I wouldn't put my money on it. Next, investments. A lot of people here are in investments of all sorts. I am sharing a few things later that I'm going to explain why investments are kind of going to disappear, which is going to upset a lot of people because some of you have a lot of money in investments of all sorts. You name it, paper, property. Yeah, I'll get there, okay? The luxury market. I'm also sharing a few investments coming up. And if you think about it, right, luxury really only came up in the Industrial Revolution. You see, if you don't own stuff, you know, it's the same. You look at the whole list there, right? Now, if you don't own stuff, and if you don't have a salary, think about how most of us buy insurance because it's called income protection. In case you die, and then your families need to eat, right? But you see, that is a very new concept because then this only makes sense if you have a salary. That's how it's calculated, isn't it? Like you earn X dollars and therefore you should cover yourself for X dollars. But you see, if people kind of don't really have a salary anymore, I'm not really sure how you're going to calculate that life insurance thing. You know what I mean? There isn't a guideline for it. I am putting out a lot of very scary concepts right now because we held on to these things for so long. This is our life, okay? And really, you only maybe buy, you only have to insure something if you own it. You only have to insure something if you own it. Just saying, okay? And now, luxury, the whole idea of luxury, if you think about it, requires a concept called comparison. Better. Mine is better than yours. Mine is more expensive than yours. And it comes out of a culture of needing to buy things. And that's why it's kind of cool if you have an LV bag, then you take an Instagram selfie, right? As in, the whole point is that the bag is nothing particularly special. It's about what it means, right? And so then we are assuming that having stuff means something. Right? Now, if having stuff doesn't mean anything anymore, I'm not really sure who's buying luxury stuff. Okay, just saying. Some of you here are in luxury market. Retail, that one, no surprise. Okay, you all know, they're all closing down already. Okay? Now, I want to say something very important about retail. Oh, wait, am I going to talk about it later? Maybe. Okay, now, the whole point about retail and luxury is that this idea of a brand. Now, the only reason why all of us here know Nike is because we go to shopping malls. Now imagine if you stop going to shopping malls. They're kind of still there, but there are no shops inside, if you get my drift, you know? Right? And so if you don't go to shopping malls anymore because don't have shop, and then you never actually see the brand. You know, the brand only has value because you look at it all the time, and it's called brand recognition, brand familiarity. Now, if we stop going to shopping malls, who the hell is going to recognize your brand? Nobody. Which is why a Nike shoe will have no difference from some African brand because, you know, no one knows the difference anyway. Okay, I'll get a little bit more into that, why I think brands are going to disappear. Worker training is going to disappear. Now, the thing is, if worker training it can flourish, it assumes that there are workers. And it assumes that there are jobs for which these workers have to carry out. Now, if those are not available, and any of you here who are in ACTA training, you are in WDA, you are doing any kind of skills-based training, what happens when there are no more workers? Then I don't know, who are you going to train? I don't know, you want to train Gen Z? I'm not sure if they want to attend your training already, xiao liao, right? Okay, next, human resources. The traditional kind of human resource, again, it assumes that there are workers. Again, it assumes that there are companies who are hiring. It also assumes that there is an industry for which you are hiring for, and that there is a guideline. Oh, we're hiring an IT executive, and therefore this is the JD, right? It assumes that there is a JD, okay? Just saying, right? Think about it, okay? Manufacturing, that one is of no surprise to anybody. Manufacturing. Now, is manufacturing going to die? It's not, right? Somebody's still got to make stuff. You sit on a chair right now, somebody got to make the chair, right? We all got that, okay? Somebody got to make the chair. But let me explain why I think manufacturing is going to be in trouble, okay? And this is something I saw very recently online. I saw it by accident. It was a YouTube video of an astronaut. This is somebody who works for NASA. And you know how astronauts, when they go to space, they need to wear, it's very cold in space. And so the kind of clothes that they wear is a very high level technology. Because we are looking at minus don't know what degrees kind of temperature, which means if you ever go out of the spaceship, right, it's like crazy freezing. So that's why for the astronaut to not die, he kind of needs to wear a very special kind of material. Everyone got that? Okay? So that means what I'm explaining here is that the technology exists. Okay, it exists. Now, the only thing is that it's very expensive, which is why they only make a few for the people who need to go to space, right? So now we're assuming that it's going to be forever expensive to produce something like that. Now, in Singapore, we don't need this because it's kind of hot here, okay? But there are some countries where it gets seriously cold. Now, and the thing is, here's the crazy thing. You know, those of you who have ever been to cold countries, you know how you have to wear a few layers? And it's a bit annoying, right? Like, nobody likes that because it's a bit like you go indoors and outdoors, they go take out, put on, take out, put on. That sucks, right? And for us, we only do it when we're on holiday. For other people in the countries, it's like for months at a go, they have to do this very annoying leche thing, you know? And so what if that technology is now available to all these countries? And here's the weird thing, that thing is so high quality until you only need to buy it once. Am I making sense? Right, which is why, you know, you realize the astronaut don't change clothes, right? You know what I mean? When they're up there, they don't change clothes, they got one, that's it. And maybe they got another one back up, you know what I'm saying? So when you only need to buy one, or I don't know, you need so much manufacturing for what? I also don't know. Okay? Now this is just one example, guys. I'm talking about how the technology has moved so quickly that there may come a day where we kind of don't need so many. Okay, and recently I did a small talk for my students, and I sort of told them that one way that we can think about looking at the future is looking at the young people. But there is something else that I like to suggest, okay? It sounds a bit lame, but I think there's some truth to it, okay? You know how we like to watch science fiction movies? And I don't know about you, but I think science fiction movies have been quite reliable at predicting the future. Consider how Jules Verne said that there might be a submarine, and then whatever he imagined really become the submarine, right? And you know how when you watch science fiction movie, they don't change clothes a lot? You know, they have that one clothing, right? And it's not like Hollywood got no money to give them costumes, right? Okay, so my point here is that perhaps technology is going to mean, so it's going to be of that simple quality such that we don't need a lot. Nowadays, a walk-in closet is like a lot of people's dream. The idea is to have like 100 outfits, right? I'm suggesting that this will change. It used to be that 100 outfits was a major thing because you could own 100 outfits. This is very different from before, right? When you were poor, but then you have a salary, now you can buy a lot of outfits. But when that mindset changes, it means that we kind of need one. And it's cold, you better get the best one. You need one, you don't have to change clothes. Okay, so I'm going to give you the air words. And here's the anti-climax part, okay? I tell you, I got much more of a reaction from the earth one, okay? Now, the air one, in a while, I'll show you all the words at one go, okay? And here's the anti-climax, okay? Nobody is going to be surprised. You have seen these words before. They showed up in 1981. They have been in our lives ever since, right? So here goes, right? Anybody surprised? You know, connectivity, information, communication, like, okay, so these words crept into our vernacular. It's in our language right now. Young people are sort of using these words, okay? Now, there are a few things that I kind of want to draw your attention to, which perhaps was not so apparent, okay? Connectivity, information, that one we got already, okay? Now, let's look at the word aesthetics. On the left-hand side, the very last words. Aesthetic means beauty. You know how Instagrammable became a word? You know what I'm saying? Instagrammable means it has to look nice. Whether it's really expensive or not, it doesn't matter. That's why cosplay is so big, right? And so aesthetics, like making things look nice. And there are quite a few older people who feel like, yeah, all these youngsters, they only care about what looks nice. Everything must Instagram. Like eat food also must take photo, right? You may not like that behavior, but look, it's making them millions now. Okay? There are a few other things like fairness and equality. Now, we've talked about that for years. Singapore even has it in our pledge, right? Now, when we talk about fairness, you start to see that there are other things coming up here, things like race, gender, age. And recently, I had one of my students who's in her 40s tell me that her son told her that I don't believe in something called a hierarchy. I don't believe that just because you're older, I must respect you. I don't believe that just because you have more experience that I should listen to you. Because, you know, when it comes to Instagram, I think you listen to him better, right? So, and that's why you find that there are a lot of very old-fashioned ideas that we have right now, that just because you are a little bit older, that people need to kowtow. That one is a little bit outdated already, unfortunately. Okay? So the way we look at equality is like, you have never seen equality like this before. It's really equal. Really. Right? And other forms of equality are that maybe it might not matter if you are a millionaire anymore, because then perhaps the Gen Z person might not actually care. Okay, so I'm just picking out two words to sort of give you a larger sense of what I'm talking about. These words don't surprise you, but what is going to hit you here is that do you see profit on that list? Basically, we're talking about MIRC back again, but without the Facebook money part. We all got that, okay? So now if you're building apps, building websites, you're building technology right now, and if your entire purpose for building it is so that you can maybe make money from 10,000 more people, I'm not sure that that app is necessarily going to work. If you're building technology right now that is specific to, well, if it's productivity in terms of being able to serve more people, that's not so bad, right? But if the idea is bigger, better, make more money, you might need to change how that technology is being used. Okay? So what rises at the start of the cycle falls at the end of the cycle. And there are a few principles. Now, when I get into this, I might mention a few specific industries, but for each of you, seriously, there's like a few hundred of you here. I don't know how many professions are here. And you come from all walks of life, okay? And so when I cover each of these principles, let me try my best to show you how far-reaching it is. Right? Because when I put these words out, I know everyone's going to look at it from a surface level. But then I need you to go 1 level down, 2 levels down, 3 levels down, because then it's like a spider that reaches all the way out. First thing, this picture here, last time chickens run free, and then now we put them in assembly lines like that. Okay? So the word that we have worshipped for 200 years is called maximize efficiency and productivity. That's exactly what we've done. We put people into an office and make them produce as much as possible. That's gone now. Okay, so they're not really interested in that. Because you see, the whole point is that, you know how when we go for training, the idea is to be faster. Let me explain a concept, okay? Let's just say if I have a client in Frankfurt, in Germany, in Frankfurt right now. See, if we went by efficiency and productivity, and if I was going online to book an air ticket, okay, now, if it turns out that the flight to Frankfurt would take me, say, 20 hours, let's just say. Now, according to our normal way of thinking, if there was another airline that could get me there in 18 hours, that's considered good. That means you save 2 hours. That's the idea, right? You see, and that's why for all of us here, we have been trying to be faster, better, cheaper. Consider that nowadays, if I wanted to get to my client in Frankfurt really fast, you know what I do? I turn on Skype. I turn on Zoom. So now, how are you going to compare 18 hours with instant? That's my point. You cannot compare 18 hours with instant. I don't care how fast your airline is. I Zoom. I turn it on, it takes me 1 second. So that's the whole idea. You get automatic and instant processes. And so this is a principle, right? I'm not specifically saying any industry, but all of you here are professionals. Think about how much of what you do is to make things faster, better, cheaper. Nobody is interested in that anymore because it's freaking instant. Okay? Think about that first. Okay, now this one I've spoken about. Okay, this one you've heard about it, right? Maximizing Earth's resources. Even Shell and ExxonMobil don't want to do this anymore already. They're trying their best to get out of it ASAP. Okay, now the only thing I want to say here is that people, have you started to think about why aren't we using solar panels like yet? There's a very simple reason. It's not very efficient, right? Those of you who are in the industry know that the solar panel doesn't exactly produce enough electricity to service like one HDB block, for example. But I want you all to think about something. In the Industrial Revolution, okay, now prior to 1842, was there a steam engine? There was. It was already created. However, the problem was that it wasn't very efficient. That means if you say you want it to power the whole factory, a bit cannot lah. Maybe power like one fella going across the street, maybe still can. Okay, but what I'm saying here is that sometimes once the line is crossed, suddenly the technology a bit fast. Okay, so that means solar panels, if anyone here is in any kind of renewable energy, I'm just using solar panels as an example, okay? The industry has been trying their best for the last 20, 30 years to try to make it as efficient as possible. As far as I know, it hasn't been very successful. Because if it was, trust me, Singapore used already because it's so hot, right? Okay, but I'm saying that after December 2020, I got a feeling it's going to move real fast. Now then, we should all rejoice, isn't it? Because then technically, it sounds like electricity is going to be free. Got it? Right? Okay, so it's going to be free, and what does that do? I have hinted to some of my students that you notice that there are certain industries that have been controlled by one organization for decades. And if you notice that recently there are certain, I'm picking my words carefully, yeah? If there are certain energy industries that have suddenly privatized and now a lot of players, right? Usually got reason why. When they cannot make money, then they let other people play lah. Okay? So, just saying. I'm very careful here, okay? I don't know who is here. Scully, guys, I do not want ISD knocking on my door, okay? Okay, so, okay, my point here is that solar panels are going to move. And it's just one of the things. I'm sure you all can educate me on what are the other kinds of renewable energy, wind, water, hydro, whatever, I don't know, okay? But my point is that the next thing that's going to come out is clean and theoretically free energy. Now, this changes a lot of things. Okay, let me explain this. Okay, now just now I talked about how I think construction is going to fall. And consider that, you know how all of you are like using your phones right now. In fact, most of you have it in your hands right now, okay? Now, at some point, your battery is going to run out. At some point, you start going around asking for a power plug. That's how it works, right? The same thing happens to your laptop. Consider that what if your laptop and your mobile phone can run on solar power? Now, that technology exists. There's such a thing as mobile phones that are run by solar power, but it's a bit expensive. Right? Maybe really only the military uses it. But if you could use your internet any friggin' place you like, that meant that you could go to Antarctica if you wanted. It means that if you like to, you can operate in the middle of the ocean, you can operate in a desert, you can operate in a mountain somewhere, okay? And consider that the idea of cities only started growing in the Industrial Revolution. Last time you watch Hollywood movie, right, they all over the country one, right? And then when the Industrial Revolution came up, wow, freaking hell, everybody went to London. Everyone got that? Okay, and so what happens right now is that we live in cities because we are addicted to the power plug and we're addicted to the Wi-Fi connection. Now, if you don't need either of these things, now, sometimes when I ask you to go to third world country, you're a little bit like, but then the power plug, but then the Wi-Fi, you know what I mean? So, now if you are no longer restricted by the power plug and the Wi-Fi, technically you could go any freaking place you wanted. Okay, and so, consider how cities over the years has become a bit congested. Apartments are getting smaller and smaller. Everyone complaining, right? You know what I'm saying? Guys, aren't you all complaining? Okay, and also the cost of living can become quite high in cities. Singapore is the most expensive city in the world to live in. Can I ask you, if you could work anywhere in the world and at whatever cost, Is there something a little bit attractive about maybe going to a countryside and like not having to see 10,000 people at the MRT station every day? Okay, consider. Right now, you kind of don't have a choice because you're addicted to the Wi-Fi connection, you know? But what if you're not? What if you can just connect to some satellite from don't know where? Then you go wherever you want, lah. You know what I'm saying? So now, what I'm trying to suggest here, guys, that very quickly, once solar power crosses that line, people can live anywhere. What happens to cities? Are we necessarily so frigging confident that they would all like to live in clean and green Singapore? Are we so confident? You know how we thought that, a few years ago we kaupe, right? We all said like, hey, we don't want to have all these foreigners coming. You all remember that, right? I'm just saying that maybe you get your wish lah, then they don't really come though. Okay? Because there's an option to not. And here's the weird thing, if a Singaporean don't live in a tiny little HDB flat, maybe some of us might decide to not live in a tiny HDB flat. I'm making some sense here? Okay? Now the idea of nations, what exactly is a foreigner really? The idea of nations actually came up in the Industrial Revolution. Okay, now it's like, the whole slate of like countries declaring independence, declaring national pride, whatever. Before 1842, got no such thing as country one. Really, you go and check history, don't have such thing one. There's such a thing as French don't like English. But they don't think of themselves as a nation. You understand what I mean, right? After the Industrial Revolution, everybody signed treaty to say that, we draw the line, this is yours, this is mine. The idea is to say, this is your possessions and this is my possession. My money and your money must make clear, ma. You see, but the thing is, when these lines are being blurred, and they're already being blurred, right? You all see that, right? People can work wherever you want. Seriously, if you have an internet connection, work for Slovakia if you wanted. Who cares, right? And so, cities are going to change. Now, another big principle here, this one is the one that we all recognize, is that the concept of a net worth. Net worth. People ask you, what's your net worth? How many properties do you own? How many stock portfolios do you own? That our net worth is determined by the assets that we have. This is a big one, guys. I know I'm going to upset a lot of people. Many of you put your heart and soul, your decades of your resources into something called assets. All right, and here's the thing, it's like, this is probably going to affect, I'm going to be very, very straight and very, very frank here, this is going to affect the older people because you amassed quite a lot of this. And I can imagine how you might be a little bit upset at certain things that are happening in the internet right now. Okay, now I'm going to show you a different kind of millionaire. During our time, millionaire means you own a few properties, you got like stock portfolio. This kind, I show you different kind of millionaire. Nowadays, millionaire are 5 years old, you all know, right? 5 years old. What kind of asset he got? He don't even have any training. You talk about training, qualifications, PhD. I don't know what he got. He got a cute smile. That's what he got. Okay. It's a bit small here, but YouTube says that their biggest star is a 5-year-old. Who here has not ever heard of Ryan Kajita? Honest. Everybody hear her. Okay, be honest, some people here has never heard of Ryan Kajita. So those people who know, please tell the person next to you who don't know who is Ryan Kajita, okay? Consider that there are people like this who exist and you don't even know who he is, right? That's kind of like a little bit about how far behind some of us kind of are. Ryan Kajita made his money from doing this video called toy opening videos. So I didn't praise his video here, but it literally features a frame and a boy sitting at the table. He goes, new toy. He opens the box. He says, this is bag number 1. This is bag number 2. This is an action figure. Like that. Serious. The whole video is just like that. Okay, and he doesn't know anything other than he has a cute smile, and he's just a kid who likes toys. Like seriously. Okay. Some of you may feel that, but then his parents must be some kind of multi-millionaire marketer. Actually, not really. I did my research. His parents are just regular people like you and me. Maybe they were marketers, but look, there are a lot of marketers here in this audience, right? You all know who you are. You're a professional marketer. I don't see you making $1 million videos. You know what I'm saying? And so the thing here is that you see here 5 years, and then a bit confusing. On the first one say 5-year-old, the second one say 8-year-old. Here's the thing, he's 8 years old now, he was already a millionaire 3 years ago. That's the idea. So then, just so you know, the past 3 years, he has been making millions, okay? So this is the idea, and this is the new type of millionaire. You need assets, man. His asset is cute smile, really. Okay, so the thing is, now, that's one of the reasons why I suspect that if you're trying to sell the old idea of an asset, it might not be so attractive. Imagine going to a young person and saying that, well, if you amass this over 25 years, you might make this ROI. Not so attractive. I actually have a friend who works in China, and they do this thing called 直播. Who knows what 直播 is? Live streaming. She literally sings songs online while people donate money to her. On a good day, she makes 19,000 USD per day, and she's not even like the top ranking. 19,000 is like the lousy kind, you know, the trying their best kind. 19,000 is like, you don't even tell people too paiseh, too lousy already. You know, 19,000 USD per day, guys. Right? You think she's going to buy an insurance policy from you? I don't think so. Right? I'm just saying that this thing has changed in a way that if you're the type who's need to wait 25 years, it's going to be a bit hard. Now, that right now I put some words up there, okay, which is like their net worth is made from doing their thing. A lot of these big stars, seriously, a girl singing online, she's not even a star, right? Maybe she's a bit pretty, but there's nothing very special about her, right? And so these people are what I call doing their thing. And more, we start to see that people are actually making money because they're just being themselves. I'm suggesting here now, you can disagree with me, but maybe one of the reasons why Ryan Kajita is so popular among everybody is that we kind of forgot what a 5-year-old looks like when he's opening toys. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a little bit of an emotional conversation here with people that they're very invested in showing how rich they are and not really being real. And sometimes people in that space, right, you look at, you're so cute, this boy, he likes toys, and then you watch one video after another. 3 hours later, you're still watching, you know. Okay, so now the other thing is that the idea of a job. And how for many decades now, we have been obsessed not just about jobs, but this idea of a promotion. This idea of a salary. It's like the 3 things, the 3 KPIs that you need to meet before you get to the next level. Now, we've done this for decades now. There is an entire industry behind getting people to the next level. Right? And that's why there are industries like HR. There are industries like worker training. All of that, okay? And here's the thing, if the jobs aren't available anymore, I'm not really sure people care about that anymore. Okay, so now, so guys, I'd like to remind you, at this point, I thought this is a good milestone to remind people, okay? Remember what I said at the beginning, that every time I do prediction, everyone sees monsters? Okay, so the nature is that everyone starts to see like, okay, crap, okay? But I like everyone to just sort of pause, okay? That means if jobs are disappearing, there must be something that's coming up, right? And if I may backtrack, I wanted to share something here, okay? And you know how for many decades, most of us have been very stressed by this. And every time you can't afford to buy an asset, it's like you are not good enough. Because your friend upgraded their condo and you're still in your 4-room HDB flat. And there's something about not being okay, not good enough. And sometimes what I want everyone to sort of think about it is that if you can get some kind of net worth by doing your thing, there's some freedom in there. That means you don't really have to go and care what your friend is doing or what they bought or whether you can afford it. It's like you just do your thing. And sometimes the more you are honest and authentic, the more people appreciate it. And even as right now we look at jobs and things like that. My clicker is not working so well now, okay? But you see, as jobs are disappearing, something else comes up. The rise of the freelancer. I was speaking to a friend who works a little bit high up in government, so I can't say where or how. I was having coffee with him, and we were talking about young people. And he said, well, the department that he works for is concerned about how young people don't have proper jobs anymore. Right, because they have statistics, right? They have statistics that show that in the past, proper job means you join an MNC and you have a regular salary, and what's most important is you contribute to CPF. And don't quote me, okay? Yeah, and so you see, some of us here take Grab. Have you noticed that the Grab drivers are not exactly your uncle? They're not exactly. Have you noticed that some of these guys look like they're 19 years old? And some of them actually, they don't look like the cannot find job type, you know what I mean? They actually look pretty intelligent. You talk to them, I can talk about business and smart guys. Then the thing is, I can see a lot of older people a bit like, boy, why you don't get a proper job? You know, it's a bit like that. Now, the last time you ordered Food Panda or Grab Food or whatever, and the fellow who delivered your food, it's not exactly the kind cannot find job one. You see what I mean? So what I'm saying here is that there is a whole generation of people who started to realize that there is a freedom in being a freelancer. And here's the weird thing, they don't exactly make less than the people with proper jobs. That's the weird thing, right? If you really go and do your sums, a lot of these people actually make more. Because some of the things that other people have to pay, they don't need to pay, you know? And, so the thing about this freelancer thing, now I want you to think about the opportunity here, okay? And I'll be quite direct. I pretty much said that a lot of people here go lose their jobs. And when you first found out about my event, I had a landing page, and I made a very bold prediction. I had the gall to suggest that most people are going to lose their jobs in the next 2 years. I hope that I have backed it up. You know what I mean? And so one of the biggest things that everyone's going to start panicking about right now is that, oh shit, like, you know, then am I going to survive? Now here's the thing, lots of freelancers have done it. Now you understand what I mean by, at the beginning of my talk, I said that quite a few people have shifted their mindset. They've shifted, and it's true that many of them are kind of younger, and some of us are going to struggle a little bit. Okay, and so the faster we've switched our mindset to the idea of the freelancer, it's like maybe you need to think about how you're going to make your money differently from now on. Now, competition, big companies, you see, competition came up, which meant that we wanted to do bigger, better, faster. And in order to get economies of scale, a lot of big companies came up. This is how we get our MNCs. In the Industrial Revolution, all the big millionaires are people who own the big MNCs. Rockefeller, people like Edison, GE, right? And so that's how the MNC became. Now I'm going to share a concept later about an aeroplane taking off. And sometimes the company is so big until they cannot fly. Okay, and let's look at this now. Okay, now if MNCs are going to fall, I promise I'll touch on this later. And you can see it happening already, isn't it? How many of them have already disappeared? This Google article here was published on January 8. Today is January 18, which means this thing was published 10 days ago. You may not notice, you may not be able to recognize all of those brands there, but I think you might recognize Forever 21. You might recognize Gap. Gap is closing its doors. Right, and I just came back from the US. These are really household brands, okay? Now, the article says that on the same day, in just one day, 8 Jan is the first week of 2020, guys. The pattern has already begun. Okay, so that means in the first week of January 2020, the announcement has come that a total of 1,700 stores from just these companies only are going to close down. I don't know about what you're thinking, but we're talking about a few thousand people here immediately jobless. Make sense? Okay, now this is retail, and you might think, it's just retail. Sorry guys, just started, okay? It's 8 Jan, there's going to be more. Now, as I cover a little bit more going deeper and deeper to this afternoon, I would like to get everybody a bit prepared that you're going to start seeing a lot of these announcements more and more and more and more as the year goes on. Okay, so now the reason why I do this event is not to give you shitty news before Chinese New Year, okay? But I hope you all understand that this is the reason why I must do it in Jan. I cannot wait already, okay? And so, I mean, if the companies are going to fall, but then people still have to find a way to work together. And this is the part, I think, maybe Singapore has a bit to learn here, okay? The rise of communities. That means having people come together and share their expertise. Right, and when I explain this concept to my students, I use a Hollywood movie. It's called Avengers. You know, you think about it as everybody has a superpower, right? And then when you come together and it's like one person can do fire, one person can do water, whatever, you know, I'm essentially suggesting that there are quite a lot of talented people here. And just because your company doesn't have any resources to hire you anymore does not mean you're useless. And what we want to do is to get people together and start thinking about how we can share our skills. What's going to disappear, guys, is this idea of a boss and an employee. Everyone clear? There will not be boss, there will not be employee. Remember, we talked about equality here. So that means I don't care if you're 65 years old, you might work with somebody who's 18, like go figure, right? That's the way it is. So because you don't know how to use Instagram and the fella is an expert, but then you might be the world's like biggest I don't know, accounting expert, which the 18-year-old doesn't know. So you find a way to work with people. That's my idea, okay? And this is what I see the world going towards. And that's why some of you here are going to be a bit upset with that because you kind of spent a few decades trying to be senior director, something regional. Sorry, you got to let that go now. No more. No one cares. 18-year-old doesn't care because you don't know how to use Instagram, okay? Am I telling the truth now, guys? You don't know how to use Instagram, you wanna act like big boss. Sorry. I mean, you kind of need that fella more than he needs you, okay? And so, now, this one is, again, I think going to upset a few people. We've been investing in technology for a long time, and a lot of it is actually for the purpose of profit. Now, if you've ever been approached by any salespeople who tell you to go to this company, open an account, you get a 17% ROI, whatever, that's not going to fly. Okay, it's not going to fly in the new world. And let me explain why, okay? And you realize in Singapore, like anybody who's tried to start that, nobody has really succeeded yet. Nobody. I mean, it's like, if I asked you to sort of name right now, like a one company that's like totally come up like the way some of these things have come up, not really, right? Perhaps the closest that we've come to is maybe GrabPay, and I'll get to that very shortly, okay? Now, with regard to Alipay, I'd like to share a short story about Jack Ma. I was watching a video online, and Jack Ma was at a conference. It's like something like that with a stage, right? And he's one of several expert panels. The people in the audience were all millennials. And the idea behind the conference was that these experts were answering questions from young people about what to expect in the future. And this one young person went to the microphone and asked Jack Ma, "What is your opinion of Bitcoin?" And this was his answer. And I'm just quoting this, okay? Don't believe me, go and find the video, okay? Now, Jack Ma said, "I don't understand Bitcoin yet." And he says, "Right now, I don't invest in anything I don't understand." That's what he said, okay? But he says, there is something I do believe in, but he said, don't get me wrong, I do believe that digital currency is the future. He said that, okay, that you're all going to have to get used to the fact that cash is going to disappear. But he said that the thing that he loved most about digital currency, and this is the part that when I saw what his answer was, immediately I understood why Taobao, why his company is so huge, why WeChat, which is the other guy from Tencent, has been so successful. And until we understand this, we're not going to get anywhere. He said the reason why I really, really love digital currency is because it eliminates corruption. And you really got to know, China is like corruption city. You know, you go there, the word under table money is like, you know, is their vernacular, okay? Now, what he said was, when you have digital currency, the idea of offering someone a bribe is no longer available because every single transaction is recorded. There is no way that you can offer someone a bribe. And he says, this is the interesting part, that it actually demands a much higher level of integrity in business. It means that you don't go and do some funny thing, everything is on recorded. Because then you go and take cash, how are you going to use that cash? Hello, right? And so, then in that instant, I understood why Taobao was so powerful. Now, I just want you all to consider something, okay? Now, if you walk into a shopping mall right now and you buy some branded goods, and it turns out that the product really sucks, okay? Now, the only people who will know about it are your family members and your friends that you complain to. You got that? Like, if you're not happy, maybe 20 people know about it. Now, if you buy something from Taobao or any kind of online store, the fact is, if you bought it and it really sucks, what you do is you go back there and you post a review. Okay? And so every single potential customer who may buy the product is going to see that shitty review. You know what I'm saying? You post it and every single person who could potentially buy this thing now knows that the product sucks. Got that? So what I'm saying here is that suddenly now businesses, you really, really cannot get away with lousy service anymore or lousy product. And immediately I understood what Jack Ma was saying, and the concept I'm trying to share with everybody here is that investing in technology for profit, that's not going to work. You invest for community change. When your product, when your technology is to change community, bring some value, real value and not monetary value into community, we start to move things. And now this is one of the reasons why, and I swear Grab did not ask me to endorse anything, okay? I'm just the astrologer, okay? Now the reason why I think maybe Grab might have worked a little bit better right now, that might change, right? After 2020, who knows, right? If I know, I don't have to stand here already, okay? Now, if the reason why Grab was successful up to this point is that they changed community. Consider how we used to do this when we wanted taxi. They changed that, right? And so they made travel instantaneous. Okay, and so if right now your app changes things now, and if you think about it, like someone shared this with me before, Facebook is big because they invented this. Tinder is big because they invented this. Swipe left, swipe right. Okay, so the thing is, we change behavior, we get things to move, and that's how your app works. And the thing is, if you think about what value does Tinder give, like doing this, but it's worth a lot of money. Okay, next. This one, I've spoken on it, right? You get a degree, if not, you die. Okay, now that one's gone now. Now, there's a trend among Singaporeans which is quite unique to Singapore, where we all invest in this fund. You know how you get people who are in their 40s and then they put money into it every month because one day my son going to go university. I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is your son is unlikely to go to university. So then you no need really, okay? Save the money, okay? Now the bad news is that you don't have a job, so you got no money to pay that thing anyway, I'm being very straight here, guys, okay? But I have even better news, okay? Now, it's possible that even if your son is in primary school right now, it's possible that in 3 years' time, he may make more money than you. Okay, so, yeah, there you got it. Okay, now, the other thing that Singapore is very good at is ranking people. When you went to school, you know exactly your school is ranked number what. Right? Every company got top 10 ranking one, every industry have, in fact, every employee also got how many ranking. So ranking and division of people is going to disappear. Because how are you going to rank the top makeup tutorial on YouTube? Doesn't work. No more. I don't know how you're going to rank, based on what? Right? Basically, there are no more guidelines. Remember, I said no more auditing, no more compliance. So, no need really, okay? So, what comes up here? Now, I want to show you this thing, okay? Now, Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, this is just an example. I just need to use her as an example of an established expert, okay? Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, her YouTube channel has 236,000 subscribers. That's not bad. It's okay, it's not bad. But let me show you the current #1 makeup person on YouTube. Okay, now Bobbi Brown has a logo that's clearly designed by some pretty professional people. I can tell you that the #1 current right now on YouTube, once I show you, it's confirmed not designed by a professional. Okay, her profile picture is actually a profile picture. It's like selfie picture. It's kind of like ding like that. I'm serious. Okay, she has 14.4 million subscribers. RCL Beauty 101 doesn't even have a real name. Seriously, a profile picture. Okay. Now, when I was doing my research, it seems that RCL Beauty 101 recently launched her own makeup brand. Who's going to bet that next year she's going to outsell Bobbi Brown? You know what I'm saying? You know what? She doesn't have an official makeup. She doesn't have a marketing team. She doesn't have a very expensive grade A office somewhere. I'll bet you, right? She has a backdrop that she puts in her back garden. She buys a lot of makeup, that's for sure, but they start giving it to her for free, just so you know. And she sells a toothpick and she makes $1 million. You know what I'm saying? She sells a toothpick with her name on it, she makes $1 million instantly because 14.4 million people watch her videos. Right? And so the concept that I like everyone to learn right now, okay, degrees are gone for a very good reason, because something has emerged and maybe you have not realized it. Nobody wants to learn from a university lecturer anymore. What they want to learn is peer learning. Is this boring? Are you enjoying this? You see, when you look at peer learning, I like everyone to think about the opportunity here. Just pause, okay? Consider that you have something to teach. You have something to teach. Somebody want to learn something from you. Right? And maybe it's not something that you went to university for. Maybe you're not a professor in it. But you know what? RCL Beauty 101 probably never attended a beauty course, ever. She just likes makeup a lot. Okay, idea. Okay, now this one is, this one I was very careful. I picked a Google stock photo. This is not anyone's photo, okay? This is not a kind of suit, okay? This is also another trend that we've grown up with. The idea is to look as successful as possible. So then you wear all the branded clothes and then you make sure that you are photographed in your nicest car, right? This is very common. Go to Facebook, you see a lot of people doing this. Ta-da, bye-bye. No more. Okay, so why? Because the next picture, now that one is not a stock photo, next photo is not a stock photo. Okay, now if anybody is from that Singapore company, don't get angry with me. Okay, I'm putting you up as an example of a cool company, alright? Okay, now this is a Singapore company, I will not name it, and this is what millennial companies look like nowadays, right? So what they do is they don't wear corporate, they wear shorts and t-shirt and they sit on the floor. Now this is cool. Millennials want to join a company like this. There are a few millennials here, right? You all want to join this company, right? Looks better than that other guy, right? Shuwen, right? I see you there. You rather join this, right? Shuwen? Right, we have a 20-year-old there, right? She would rather join this than the other one. Okay, and may I say that this is potentially one of the reasons why some of the companies who have hired me to consult on why do you think millennials don't want to join my company? Okay, so I don't want to give you a direct answer, you see for yourself, okay? That's why they don't want to join your company, because you're a bit outdated. Okay, next, this one, big one, okay? Now, we have an obsession about something called status symbols. There are entire companies here who sell incentive trips. The idea is that if you reach a certain, like a certain sales level, then you get an incentive trip to something like this. I just came back from a cruise in October. Some of you here were in that same cruise. Most of the people there were old people. Isn't that right, Derek Chu? Right? They look like they are 70 and above. In fact, we thought that some people might actually die of natural causes on that cruise. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is a bit outdated already. Okay, shopping trips, obsession over material status symbols, finances, luxury, no more. Okay, now the thing is, if you go on Instagram, you spend a lot of time and you start looking at what people are posting nowadays. Has anyone here ever heard of Marie Kondo? You know who she is? Now, those who know, tell the people next to you who don't know, okay? There are a lot of people here who don't know who's Marie Kondo, okay? And so, now, Marie Kondo's thing is called decluttering. The idea is that you go to your house with a ton of shit, and what you do is you get a nice big trash bag and you dump it all out. Anything that you don't need, you bye-bye, right? So the idea is, can you see now that there is a movement? There is a movement called minimalism. Am I making sense, guys? Am I lying? Is May lying? Am I trying to sell you something that doesn't make sense? Okay? Okay, minimalist lifestyle simply means that people just don't buy shit anymore. They don't need it. They don't need a walk-in wardrobe. They don't need like 10,000 new, I don't know, TV sets. How many screens do you need anyway? How many pairs of eyes have you got anyway? You know, and so minimalist lifestyles. Nobody wants to show off all that stuff anymore, okay? So now what rises at the start of the cycle always falls. And some of you need more examples, okay? And I'm going to hit this home, guys. Like, it's really important, okay? I'm taking a bit of time with this. I'm going to show you that even countries can rise and fall. I will not start with the obvious first, okay? Let's start with something else first. Wikipedia says that the United Kingdom, as we know it today, of course, England has a very long history, okay? I'm not talking about England, I'm talking about the United Kingdom. There is a treaty that was signed in 1801 that meant that the United Kingdom began. And if you look at the timeline, if you recognize my timeline, this was just before 1802. Okay, so what rises at the start? Now, the UK became a world superpower after signing this agreement. And the end of the cycle is kind of where we are right now, 2000, 2020. Anybody know what's the big news with UK right now? Brexit. Brexit. What's going to happen? I don't know. You go and figure it out, okay? But the thing is, yeah, basically, you understand what I mean, huh? What rises, falls, okay? Next one, Hong Kong. Right, now, if you look at Wikipedia, it says here that the Treaty of Nanking, that was the one that meant that the Angmo took over Hong Kong. Okay, now this was signed in August 1842, which was kind of like, you know, that date that I told you to pay a lot of attention to, right? And you see, according to Wikipedia, Hong Kong didn't even have a history before 1842. Didn't even exist properly, you know? And what's happening in Hong Kong right now? Watch the news, guys. Okay? I don't know what's going to happen, okay? Sir Stamford Raffles came to Singapore somewhere in the Earth thing. The good news, 1819 is not actually listed as a date on that thing. That's the good news. It's not actually listed, not like 1802 and 1842, right? It's not actually listed, but I've been an astrologer for 16 years and I have discovered that what rises at the start of the cycle falls at the end of the cycle. Right? Singaporeans going to get upset with me right now, okay? But now I'm going to propose that one of the reasons is because if you see that all the countries that rose when the Earth cycle began, they built their strength on Earth principles. Singapore is known for its efficiency, its productivity. And it's, when you take all of that away, we don't really produce anything. You know, I was in the US, and you know, Americans, they don't really know much about Singapore, okay? And they ask me nice questions like, oh, what does your country produce? You know, if you were from like Philippines or Mexico, you have a few answers, right? But then, no leh. Then I was thinking for a long time. I said, you know what? That's a really good question. Yeah, we're not even very good at producing human beings. Like, we get my drift, you know? I'm not really sure what we produce. I mean, produce nothing, guys. I mean, other than the fact that we speak multiple languages, other than the fact that we a little bit educated, guess what? None of that is important anymore. Just saying. Google can translate. Okay? And so, the reality is, I don't know, really, guys. Okay, so that means, that's why I'm asking everybody to look at the idea of the freelancer, the idea that you have something to teach. Okay, so that means the faster we let go of all these old principles that used to make us strong, we kind of need to find strength in other ways. Am I clear with everybody? Okay, and so okay, I'm going to show you that this is again going to drive it a bit more home. Okay, now you're going to have trouble adjusting. All of us here belong to different categories, and I'd like to show you this little slide here. Please work. Okay, great. So all of us here, sitting in this room, belong in one of those categories, okay? Let's start with the early one first. Let's go backtrack a bit, okay? Now, if you are in this category between 1961 to 1940 and 1961, you are between 60 to 80 years old. There may not be very, very many of you here, okay? I got good news for you. You are a bit safe, because you don't really have that long to go in the working world. I told you I was direct, okay? And so the thing is the world going to change? Yes, but the thing is, okay, now are all the industries going to die like tomorrow? Okay, not really lah. Okay, let's be straight here, not going to die tomorrow, okay? And so that means as long as there are still some old people around who don't know how to use Instagram, then some industries are going to remain, okay? So that means you can stick around for a bit, okay? And by the time the change really happens, don't worry, you are retired, okay? Start collecting your CPF ASAP, okay? And so there's another group here from 1981 to 1961. That means right now you are between 40 to 60 years old. Now there are quite a few of you here. And can I be really, really honest and direct with all of you, okay? This group is probably going to suffer the most. Because you have between another 10 to 30 years to go in your work life. True, right? And you are not very good with technology. Some of you are IT people, then okay, then don't mind me, okay? But majority of you are not. And what I'm saying here is that if just now I showed that video, my enemy became my slave, and you have no idea why that's popular, yeah, that's why you're going to struggle, okay? And so the thing is, now these people are going to need to find a way to adjust as quickly as possible. And let's be real straight here. If you think that you're going to pick up technology, it's going to be a bit hard, right? You are never going to be as fast as the rest, which means that you might need to learn to sort of like give value in other ways. I'm going to show you real life examples before I end off today, okay? And this other group here, between 2000 to 1981, now that's my generation. People here who are between 20 to 40, you are millennials, okay? And now this group of people are a little bit more advantaged, okay, for the simple reason that we are actually Earth people who were born into the air generation. Okay, so that means the good news is that we are okay with technology. You accept that the fact that there's software, you're fine with it, okay? There's not an issue. Some of us, the older ones like me, may struggle a bit with some new technology. I hired a 19-year-old intern last year, and she had to teach me how to use Instagram, right, Shu Wen? She's here today, okay? And so, the thing is, but you see, this group is going to struggle with one thing. We are still Earth people. That means you kind of still want the condo. You kind of still want to have that nice little office that says regional director. Okay, now we grew up like that. Okay, are you ready to let it go? The faster you let it go, the faster you survive. Okay, now the next group here is what we call the Gen Z, which means if you are in that category, you're 20 and below. Not that many of you here today, but there are a few of these. Okay, now these people have suffered for the last few years because they are like Martian from another planet born into the wrong place. Yeah, they are from the air, they are air people, but then they were born into a very, very, very money-faced world. And which is why they cannot understand why their parents forced them to go and do degrees. That's the point. It's like, and so there's a very, the people who were born, I had slides for this, but I'm going to skip it because no time, okay? 1998 to 2003. That means if you are between 17 to 22 years old right now, can I have a show of hands? How many people here? Between 17 to 22 years old. You not? Okay, yeah, okay, so there are a few of you here, okay? Now these people are like super aliens, okay? They were born into the really money-faced world, and then they have no idea why their parents do half the things that they do. And so, now if you are a parent here and one of these people who just raised their hands is your kid, right? You know, I had a few of my friends who have kids of this age. And they've told me that, in May, I heard you're doing this talk, I'm trying to force my daughter/son to come. And then I'm like, you see, the idea of forcing your kid to do anything, right, really doesn't work for this generation, just saying, okay? And then I tried gently to tell her that actually this talk is for you. Isn't it true? Right? I mean, seriously, the young people is like, anything I said here that is surprising to you, no, right? You knew. These people were born knowing that the world was going that way. Who they know is us. It's us who they know. They know the moment they were born. They were not from our generation. You got that? Okay, and so if you're a parent and you have kids of that generation and they're telling you really weird things that you don't agree with, I suggest you might suggest only that you start listening to them. Okay? Now, you also have trouble adjusting. Now, the next few slides are going to upset a lot of people, because these are gospel truths. These are the gods that we worship here in Singapore. And the thing is, a lot of us have invested time, money, and effort into it. I'm essentially saying that we're going to let all of that go. The faster you let it go, the better it's going to be. Number one, property. You invest thinking foreigners will come here forever. I just told you that cities are not the biggest thing. Some of us here own multiple properties. You paid millions for it. I'm not sure who's going to rent it. I'm not sure if you want to sell it that somebody's going to buy it. Just saying. Right? We already have a glut as it is. And even I personally have been approached by agents in the last 2-3 weeks to like property showcases. I have not gone for obvious reasons. But the thing is, I'm sorry if you're a property agent, I'm just being real straight here. I'm not really sure who's going to rent this stuff, right? Solar-powered phones are coming. Just so you know, foreigners don't have to come here to work in Singapore, okay? I was just at a training course over the 2 weekends ago, and it was run by a very competent team. 2 very amazing gentlemen, plus 4 staff from the Philippines. They work full-time for these 2 amazing gentlemen, and guess what? These 4 ladies, they don't live in Singapore. They report for work every day, but online. And they do an excellent job. Some of us sitting here were at that training course. You agree with me, they did an excellent job. They don't work here in Singapore, right? Foreigners don't have to come here, so don't worry about your white paper. Okay, next, you invested in grade A offices, retail spaces. And here's the biggest irony. When you walk into a condo showroom, the most expensive unit is the retail space. That's the one that's dying first. You get that, right? Now, the grade A office, you see, grade A offices assume that there's going to be some MNC that shows up to rent your space. I kind of already told you MNCs are in trouble, okay? And here's another trend that in case you have not noticed and you still think that some big name company is going to come and rent your office, guess what? Nowadays, offices and shops can be just one table. You all got that? Anybody visited a co-working space recently? You know how you walk in and the average guy there looks a bit like a nerdy, geeky guy with glasses, and then he has headphones on, and then he just sits there with one laptop, right? Yeah, I'm going to bet he makes more money than your whole office combined. Just saying. You know what his cost is? 1 laptop, 1 coffee, and 1 table space. That's his cost. He makes millions, right? Go figure. Like, the world's changed now, guys. Okay, and so, and the thing that I would like everyone to sort of consider right now, okay, I'm being mean now, and I'm sorry if you have invested, okay? I'm just telling you so that you can get out ASAP. Okay, the thing here is that, now if you're going to lose your job, and you think that starting a business is going to take your lifeblood, right? Here's the thing, you don't. Because what's your cost for setting up a business? Laptop, chair and table, and a coffee. That's all you need, guys. And an internet connection, which might be free. Okay, so, just saying. Now, next is that some people get into debt, you're pursuing degrees, and then there's no job, okay? And so, the thing is, if you are still pursuing, I still have people coming to me for consultation telling me that they want to invest in MBA, and I'm like, I don't know how to tell you that. Why are you doing this, okay? So, next is that, companies, okay, we are assuming that there are still companies, okay? That nowadays, they're actually hiring freelancers. That's the truth. They're not hiring in-house people. And have you all noticed that? They're hiring freelancers now. And when you have so many freelancers to choose from, who do you pick? You pick people with portfolios, with network. right? And that's the reason why followers are so important, right? Has anybody even considered like why the number of followers are important? Because that's your network. It's how many people that you could influence at any one time. You post one thing and 14 million people see it, now that's an influence, right? And so, and so I'm also suggesting that if you replace the word companies with communities, because as companies die, you find that what you want to attract is communities. Remember I talked about superpowers, Avengers. So what you want to be is attractive so that other communities want to work with you. And they will not hire you. They may engage you, but they will not hire you. There will not be a salary. Everyone got that, okay? Now, this is another problem here in Singapore where many of us have spent our life amassing corporate experience. But that means that you kind of don't have fundamental skills. You have admin, you have HR, you have corporate type skills. But the thing is, now this woman is a Japanese woman who lives in Tokyo. A few years ago, she left her corporate job and she started a baking channel. But you see, this assumes that you have baking skills and video skills and marketing skills, right? And so what I'm suggesting here is that we kind of need some fundamental skills here, right? And maybe your HR, admin, whatever, it's maybe not so useful in the new world. Some of us invested in big name, established brands. I'm just using makeup as a very easy, accessible thing, okay? But you replace this with whatever. You replace it with like sound systems, cars, I don't care, anything, right? You just put big name brands up there. Question, among the women here, who do you think are the people who buy Lancome, Benefit, Clinique? More likely to be somebody who's 56 or someone who's 16. Get my drift? Right? Who buys big brands? Old people. Old people buy big brands. Young people don't buy brands anymore. And the thing is, but don't they wear makeup? And haven't you noticed that the young people don't really like makeup? Have you noticed that? Like 19-year-olds kind of don't like makeup anymore. It's only old people like me who wear makeup, right? And hey, don't laugh, okay? I need to be on stage, okay? And so, so then the question here that everybody needs to ask, then what are they buying? Okay, now here's the thing. I'm going to show you brands that you never see before. Anyone heard of Blue Tansy? How about what's this Golden Waves and what's this Onomi? Frankly, I haven't heard of these brands myself. But you see, this is what we call indie brands. How do indie brands work? Somebody posts a lot of makeup tutorials, they have 10 million followers, and then they just go and pay some manufacturer in China to make Blue Tansy, and they sell 1 million pieces. That's how it works, guys. And so, who cares if you've never heard of them? There are 1 million followers. Each person pay them $1, they $1 million already. That's how it works, guys. Okay? And so, and as you start to get kind of upset, now some of you here work for big brands. And when nobody buys your brands anymore, consider how the big companies are set up so that they have scale. A lot of those big makeup brands, you know how they all belong to the same 2 companies, right? You all know, okay? And so the reason why it's so big is because they need to produce millions and millions and millions of product, right? And here's assuming that people are actually buying those products. And if people don't buy those products, then why we need all this stuff for, right? And so the thing here is that now, you can get upset with me because then now your big brand is like maybe going to fire you, but consider the opportunity that's come up. Basically, if an indie brand, last time, if you say you want to start your own makeup brand, people laugh at you. You say crazy, L'Oreal so big, you want to fight with L'Oreal. Last time cannot, now can. Now you can be nobody and come up with an indie brand and somehow it works. So I'm basically saying, guys, have you ever thought of potentially being your own indie brand? Make sense? Right? And guess what? Remember I said you could do it with 1 table and 1 space and 1 coffee, right? You know how it works, Next. A lot of us try to look cool with cars, watches, branded stuff. I really said young people not impressed with all these things, right? So you try to recruit youngsters, millennials with this kind of thing a bit last minute, okay? And please, if you know this fellow, don't tell me I use his picture, okay? Now next, wait, I faster move on, okay? Now this guy here, his name is PewDiePie. How many people here don't know who's PewDiePie? Let's be frank here, okay? PewDiePie is his name is kind of cute, right? Now, he has a video here. Now, I just randomly pick a video from his PewDiePie thing, okay? Now, it says here, I hate Lily's Garden and her teeth. Okay, hands up if you know who Lily's Garden is. Oh, 1 person. Any more? Okay, here's a trick question, okay? Lily's Garden is not a person. Lily's Garden is an app. It's one of those things where you go and play, then you decorate the garden, that kind, okay? What it tells you, those of you whose English very good, tells you that his English is not very good. He's missing an apostrophe. Okay, now here, this is a man whose English sucks so bad that he can't even put Lily's garden properly. And his video is not a very positive thing because it actually says, I hate Lily's garden and her teeth. Right, really. The whole video consists of nothing else except him ranting at how this cartoon character sucks. Now, here's the thing, if you look at the date that the video was posted, it's January 14, 2020, which means it's 4 days ago. Now, here's the thing, I did not produce my slides this morning. I didn't, okay? Like every good Earth person, I produced my slides faithfully 4 days ago, which meant I prepared this Jan 14, 2020. How many views did he have? You see that? It's 3.2 million views in 1 day, guys. 1 day. For something called I hate Lily's garden and her teeth, not even grammatically correct. Cool means you're real. This is not real. This is real because he was real. He doesn't like Lily's garden and PewDiePie is worth $30 million. He's worth 30 million, guys. He can't even spell properly. But then he's Swedish, so we forgive him, okay? Okay, next is like, now if you look at this picture, it's really not that long ago. I deliberately picked a picture that was something like 1830, maybe. Look at this picture and how you don't recognize this world anymore. You don't recognize it. This is Hollywood movie. We don't know this world. And imagine this is 1842 and we just told all these people that they kind of have to go to school, get a job, buy insurance. You know, there's a baby there and I can imagine someone's just come and tried to recruit him to serve the queen. And his parents think it's a great idea. Like, oh, you can help me get a connection to the queen. Okay, my son's made for life and it's 1840 and basically you're screwed if you go and serve the queen because then you're better off joining a factory. Now here's the thing, I just want to give everybody a little bit of perspective, okay? Now imagine this is 2020. Look at all these people, same thing, right? Like that, like, okay? So basically in a few years' time, you're just going to look as old-fashioned as those people. And we kind of need all these people to know. I'd like to give you a summary, okay? I know I cover a lot of things and some of you cannot follow, okay? So I'll just follow, okay? First of all, if your industry is on that list, it's gone. Second thing is that work behavior has changed. If you still expect to go to CBD and report to an office 9 to 6, you are last century. Second is that lifestyle has changed. People actually kind of like minimalism. They're not going to buy a ton of shit anymore. I know e-commerce is up. Yeah, so that says something about e-commerce too, right? Okay, so think about it. Just because people are in e-commerce doesn't mean you jump on it, okay? And so, and as people start to get simpler and simpler, they kind of don't really mind going to a sort of kind of like third world type country as long as it's clean and neat and like have more space than Singapore for a lot less. Okay, now consumer changes, they don't really care whether you have a brand or not. As long as they like your product, who cares, right? They will just buy it because I like you and then so I like your product. That's how it works. Okay, job market is going to decline. If you think that you're going to hold on to your job forever, that's gone. Okay, I'm very direct. Okay, now I know right now everybody is like loading already. Okay. Everybody's loading now, okay? I don't care if you're a business owner. The fact is, yeah, maybe you make your own money, but I think you realize your target consumer is going to change big time, okay? And so now before everybody starts going home and like getting paper and start making your career plans, don't forget I still got part 3. Good, right? I tell you my part 2 is good, right? Now part 3 is going to be even better, okay? And before you start making your career and business plans, you need to ask me one more question. Because I said the line is 22nd December this year. Now we're still January, still got 11 months to go, right? Now you need to ask me how about between now and 22nd December? Because if you're going to be making some kind of plans to make into a new career, then maybe you kind of need to know this first. And before I let you back from the break, before we come back from the break, I'd like to share a very, very quick concept which gives you a good sneak preview of what to expect. You see, and when we say that a country is going to go from Earth to air. The best analogy I can give you, and I'm pretty sure that Singapore's everybody here take plane before, right? And you know how in January right now, if you look around, it's Chinese New Year, no one seems to care. Until you came to my event, it's like you didn't realize, right, that all these things is happening. Now I have this talent, I know how to put things in front of you, okay? And so imagine that when you bought a plane and hasn't moved yet, you know, everybody's still like stowing their luggage and stuff, right? So that's where we are right now. Consider that after a while, the plane moves into its runway. Everyone clear? And then at some point, it starts to move a bit, and then faster and faster and faster and faster, and boom, 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 and then it goes shh. You all recognize that? That's what's going to happen in Singapore. We are right now at the stowing luggage. No one seems to know what the hell is going on. Right? Like nobody seems to realize you thought your job's going to last forever. Okay? And so the thing is, very shortly, that plane's going to move. And the thing is, you don't have a lot of time. A lot of people don't believe me. They say, hey, May, are you sure though? I think all these things will take a few years. Right? I'm not sure it's a few years. The Industrial Revolution took 6 years. Singapore, very instant. Now we everything instant. Okay, I tell you. Between now and 22nd December, you're going to see that happen, which is like, it goes, okay? And what's important is the part, which is I think you'll all like to focus on. After the break, we're going to cover 2020 Singapore, okay? And so, please guys, okay, now before I let you off on the break, right, I'm going to show you a familiar slide. Okay, I want to say something first, okay? If you think this is marketing for me, can I just share something, okay? Right now, my auditorium is supposed to hold 450. There isn't 450 people here. I tried my very best. I really tried my best to get as many Singaporeans into this auditorium as possible. It's not full, okay? And thank you. Good timing, eh? See? Right? This is Earth, right? We run out of battery and then like things go up. Like if we ran on solar, I wouldn't have this problem, okay? And so, it'll come, okay? Now, here's the thing, okay? I try to get as many Singaporeans as possible and they're not here. Consider that before you walked in here, you didn't know this, okay? And sorry if I punched your face, but I needed to do that, I apologize, okay? And the thing is, when you share, please, right, if you do the hashtag Maysim, if you think it's marketing, then okay, just don't post, okay, fine, okay? But my point here is that, can you help me, please? Right? I have a message and I'm a very tiny girl. I'm a small girl with a very big voice, but this is as big as I can get. I tried my best. It's the biggest auditorium I could find really, short of getting the Singapore indoor stadium, okay? And so, help me please. Tell this to as many people as possible. Give them something, right? Go back to your workplace and please tell them, right? We need to make a change here, okay? So I'm going to call a 15-minute break. Please come back. We are talking about Singapore 2020. You leave right now, I guarantee you regret for the next few years, okay? So we're going to go for a 15-minute break. Help me to share. Thank you. We're about to start the third segment, and I hope everybody is ready. So earlier, we talked a lot about the world, and then we talked about the industries that will be affected. And in this last segment, I'm going to zoom in all the way right down to specifically Singapore. So what you're going to see in this third segment here is unique to just Singapore only. It will not apply to any other countries for those of you who work in other places, okay? I promise it will be a groundbreaking segment. I do have a quick favor. I think my photographer has asked to take a photograph. And what I'm going to do, okay guys, what I'm going to do with this picture is that what's happening is I'm going to be launching a lot of information. If I say it to Singapore right now without this presentation, no one's going to believe me. Nobody believes it, right? Some of you here are even skeptical right now. But you see, as the year goes on, I will be releasing even more information as it becomes a little bit more believable to all Singaporeans once they start to see that the plane starts moving. And so this picture is going to help me a lot because then I'm going to tell people that I did this event in January, okay? So I don't really need anyone to do anything fancy, okay? And I just need to show that there has been an event and this was presented in January. Okay, thank you. Okay.
That's a suggestion.
Yes.
Okay, those people on top, I can't really see you. Okay. Come on, let's be sporty a bit. All right. Stand up for me. Stand up for me. Stand on top for me. Come. Those on top, stand up for me. And people in the last row, come stand on top for me also. Those in the last row. Stand up, come on. We just had a break, come on. You don't want to relax, come on. Those in the last row, come on, stand up for me. The last row, yes. No, nothing on the hand. Free hand, hands free. Thank you, everybody, yes. Thank you. All right.
Guys, the only reason why I'm doing this is because nobody else in Singapore is talking about this. Nobody in Singapore is talking about this. Nobody knows anything about this at all. Yes, what do you need me to do? Yeah, okay.
Good, thank you. speed action for me. Speed action for me, like that. Yeah, come on. Thank you. Yeah, boleh. 1, 2, 3, good job. Yeah.
Thank you for being sporty. It has occurred to me that that was a very joyful looking picture. I'm not really sure how that picture is going to work when I put my information out, but yeah, okay. So my team is doing their job, okay. And for me, it's a bit like, okay, the photographs are taken, whether I'm going to use them. The truth is, I don't know if that picture is going to deal well with the content that I'm putting up. Okay, now, so in this third segment, I will go a little bit quicker. Okay, I want to ask everybody to sort of bear with me a little bit because I have to show you a bit of astrology. And I'll just say beforehand that I know most of you are not astrologers. I'm not going to ask you to look at planets and signs or whatever. Now, the only reason why I'm putting those diagrams up is because you need to know that I'm not making this stuff up. That's the only thing that you need to know, okay? And as with what I've done so far, I would like to assure each person here that any predictions that I make at this point is purely based on history. You notice this is my style. I look at what has happened in the past, and if it happens again, this is exactly why I say it will happen this way. So Singapore 2020, it begins with Singapore's birth chart, and as I said, you know, it's set for 9 of August 1965. We started at 10 a.m. in the morning. And so this diagram that you see over here, not sure if you can see the little words, but on the inner wheel is Singapore's birth chart. Now, when an astrologer decides to do a prediction, what I simply do is I put the planets right now. This is what we call a transit. I look at where the planets are in the sky at this moment, and I place them all around Singapore's chart. That means when I do this for an individual, it's the same thing. I put your chart in the middle, I put the transits around, I see what the patterns are, okay? And so, now as we go from earth to air, what I assured you just now, before the break, was that it's almost like we're all going to get into the plane, and then it seems like nothing's going on. The plane moves a little bit and moves a little bit faster, and it boom, bum, 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 and it goes right up again. Okay, so this is exactly the story that I'm going to show you for Singapore. And the reason why I'm very, very sure that this is going to happen is I have 3 very major concerns, and I will be very specific. Okay, now I might breeze through the astrology part, and trust me, I will show you the parts that you need to see. Okay, the first concern, this is astrology, okay, that Uranus is going to change houses on Singapore's chart. Now, unless you are my student, this means nothing to you, okay? Now, let's speak English, okay? My promise is this. So, every time Uranus changes houses in Singapore's chart, really strange things happen in Singapore. Okay, what do I mean by unusual? Now, Singapore is not exactly like, we're not boring and we're not like exciting, you know? Okay, and so every time, there are a few examples I'm going to show you from the past. Okay, now, if reliably, every time this happens, funny things happen in Singapore, then if it happens again in 2020, you should expect that funny things happen in Singapore. Okay, that's the way it works. And so, let's go down memory lane. Okay, now, first of all, the first example I have is in 1990. Uranus changes house into the 4th house. This means nothing to you. Now, let's speak English now. Okay, now, this duration was 10 months. Okay, so that means during these 10 months, something a little bit strange happened in Singapore regarding land and property. Is there any professionals here who kind of know what happened in 1990? Okay, now let's just say if that you were old enough to have owned property when you, in the year 1990, you struck lottery. Do you all remember that suddenly all your properties tripled in value? Remember that? Okay, so look at that graph, and I didn't take this from the sky, okay? This is data.gov.sg, okay? So I know the year is a bit small and it's a bit faded, but what you see at the bottom, like these little small numbers, and on the left-hand side are basically your 1980-something. And in 1990, where that red line is where suddenly our property price tripled. Like, would you agree that this is something unusual? That means if you were a property owner in 1990, it was like, whoa, what just happened? Okay, so that's the feeling. Now, another example was that in 2005, leading to 2006, now there was a transition into the 6th house. What I'm talking about is that little blue thing, you know, that blue thing that looks like a weird little spider that is going to the 6th house. Now, the 6th house, now you notice that the duration again is about 10 months. And during these 10 months, it affected the part of Singapore that it's either illness or work. Either one, okay? Either illness or work. Anyone knows what happened in 2005? I'll give you a clue, it was illness, and it wasn't SARS. where SARS was 03, right? This one was perhaps a little bit worse than SARS, dengue outbreak. Okay, 14,000 cases. You all remember that? This is not very long ago, right? You all remember that? 27 people died that year from dengue. Right, this one from Wikipedia. And you also notice, I sort of covered it a little bit with the pink box, but you can see that the outbreak peaked in the months of September and October. So this is how it works, right? So in the 10-month period, you find that somewhere in the third quarter kind of thing is when it's the highest. Okay, next. This one even more recent, even more recent. We're talking about 2013 to 2014. Just a few years ago, we will all remember this, okay? When it transited the 7th house, the duration, again, was 10 months. Now, within these 10 months, a lot of funny things happen in Singapore that has something to do with either fairness or relationships. Now, Singapore has been largely peaceful most of the time, okay? And usually, there have been a few moments in our history where we got a little bit excited, right? And this was one of them. Okay, now within a period, 10 months is not very long. And at times Singaporeans, right, we don't really like protest one, you know what I mean? We don't. It's like we kind of got better things to do than to go and like say, you know, Singaporeans can be a bit apathetic and we kind of a bit don't care one, right? Now, consider that within 10 months, suddenly Singaporeans really like to make noise. Okay, 10 months, I'm going to show you 4 things that happen in Singapore which you never see one, never ever. And then when the 10 months ended, suddenly all the means a lot God, this suddenly ain't no more already. Okay, next first, white paper protest. You remember this? You know how many people went to Hong Lim Park? Some of you may even have been there, you know? It's like, first, number 1, protest. Then after that, within a month, protest again. It's called Free My Internet protest. You remember that, right? So they said no freedom. Then after that, there were a few other people who was in the news at the time. Don't quote me, I don't want ISD knocking on my door. Okay, next one. The record Pink Dot protest. Now, Pink Dot has gone on for every year. Now, that particular year, it was pretty crazy. I don't know if you all remember it. That particular year, it was so crazy, it got international media, right? And can you see how big this is? It's like, they really made it a huge event. Now, that year, normally, Singaporeans is like, you want to protest, you go, lor, okay? But that year was very weird, okay? Now, those of you, go and check your newspaper if you don't believe me, okay? Now, that year, the religious organizations got involved also. Then they also decided, you wear pink color, I wear white color. You remember? Yeah, that happened, Okay, that's all I'm saying about it, okay? And it wasn't just the Singaporeans that got into it. As long as you're in Singapore, somehow people like to protest. Little Indian riot also within that period war. Okay, so that means consider that after this 10-month period, the riots ended. Like no more already. Have you heard of any other major riots in the last? Don't have, right? But within 10 months, suddenly we a bit trigger happy. Okay, now, the point that I'm trying to make to all of you here is this. Singaporeans are a little bit predictable if you are an astrologer like me. Okay, so that means if I can do the prediction in this way, it means that if I say every time Uranus changes houses in Singapore's chart, unusual things happen. And therefore, if Uranus is going to change houses in 2020, okay, so then now you want to pay attention to what it affects, because then you really should be expecting some pretty crazy things to happen. Now, when does this happen? Now, oh, wait, usually it's 10 months. And this time around, it is double the duration. That means we're not going to have a 10-month story, we're going to have a 19-month story. And it starts in July. We are in Jan right now. July is just, 6 months? Less than 6 months from now, okay? What's going to happen? Okay, so now this happens from July 2020, and have a look. It's going to last all the way until February 2022. What does this tell you? Whatever I'm saying right now, it applies for 2021 as well. Everyone listening, right? Okay, the duration is 19 months. Do your maths, it's 19 months. Double the duration. Now, the 8th house. Let me explain. Let me give you a bit of astrology here, okay? Now, the 8th house can represent a lot of things. It can represent death. It can represent psychology, sex, a couple of things, okay? But in a country's chart, it's not going to represent sex, okay? Now, in a country's chart, there is something very important, and it has to do with a little bit with money. Okay, now the fact that it involves a little bit of like a monetary thing means, to me, it's important because 2020, remember, is when it switches, right? And so, the concept in the 8th house is not just money. That means it's not the money that you keep with your salary, not that kind, okay? The concept is called shared money. That means it is money that doesn't necessarily belong to you, doesn't belong to me. It's what we call everybody's money. You all got that? Everybody's money, okay? In astrology, there are a few things. Okay, I'm going to show you a few possibilities. Okay, now again, Which one is it? I think I'm going to ask you to draw your conclusion, okay? And sometimes, frankly, I've done astrology for a really long time. Sometimes it is all of the above, sometimes. And sometimes it's just one or two, okay? Let's begin. Number one, the stock market. Because that is everybody's money, right? We all put money into it, it's a stock market, okay? When I finish my little section, you decide which one it is, okay? It could also be banking and loans. Now, Singapore can be very highly leveraged, mainly because our properties are expensive. And it's very normal for people to owe a lot of money, okay? And so, if banking or loans are going to get affected, safe to say, some unusual things going to happen in Singapore. Now, the next one is insurance. That is also everybody's money, right? You pay money, you pay premiums, it goes into like a general fund, okay? So these are some possibilities. And there's also CPF. It's everybody's money. Not going to say much on that. Trust me, I do not need #return our CPF on me, okay? Now, okay, next. Okay, next one. The next one is a bit anti-climax one. No surprise, everybody know already. They announced last year, so then you already know they're increasing GST lah. Okay, this one you all know. Okay, then no surprise. Okay, so it could be all of the above, could be some. Okay, now there are a few other things I'm going to present later. You decide which one. Okay. Okay, so this is one. Okay, so everybody got it? So that means because Uranus changing houses in Singapore's chart, I'm expecting some weird things to happen. Next, transits stack up in 2020. Now, if you recall, what I said, transits means the planet moving in the sky. If it interacts with Singapore's chart, that is called transit. Now, a transit is not a bad thing. That means at any one time, transits are always happening. Even as I'm speaking, transits are happening, okay? But here's the thing, there are some transits that mean specific things, okay? And generally, when similar transits stack up, things happen big. When I say similar transits, it means that, for example, like on a given day, it can affect my emotions, it can affect my money, it can affect my husband, whatever, okay? But the thing is, when within a very short period of time, you have multiple transits all affecting one thing. Can you imagine, say, if it's like emotions, then I get emotions. That means something's happening in my emotions. Everyone understand? It's a very simple astrology concept. Okay, now, here's the thing. In 2025, not one, not two, not three, 5 significant transits stack up in Singapore within a very short period of time. And it just happens that it is this year. And it coincides with my little analogy of a plane taking off. So I'm going to show you a bunch of astrology. Don't mess your head up about it, right? I will explain it to you. I will speak English, okay? So here goes. Okay, number 1, Pluto squares Mars. This happens from 13 Feb 2019. Now, the first thing you should notice is that 2019 means happened already. Okay, so that means whatever I'm saying here, you should have noticed it. Okay, so this is what happened. Okay, this is a transit, right, when Pluto is there. Now, the brown thing at the bottom is in the 4th house. Now, that little brown thing is called Pluto. Pluto is definitely a planet. Okay, and some people call Pluto the Yanluo Wang, Chinese call him Yanluo Wang, is god of death, okay? So when Pluto's in the 4th, now the 4th house is to do with things like home, family, property, security. And when Pluto is in that position, it means your security feels threatened. Now this by itself doesn't necessarily mean that people are like losing their heads, okay? It just means there's a feeling of being threatened. You kind of a bit don't feel safe, okay? So now, I'm not going to say too much on this. Go think about, were there any announcements that were made in February last year that might have made some people in Singapore feel a little bit insecure about home, family, property, security? Okay, got it? Okay, so think about that. Okay, so it's happened already. And look, it hasn't ended. Hasn't ended yet. So it's a long period of time, and that insecurity is going to last all the way until November this year. Everyone got that? So now, just to illustrate it for you, I decided to make it a visual so that you don't have to memorize the dates, okay? Number 1, okay, now this one, you see 18 Jan there, which means already started, okay? Feeling insecure, right? Feeling like you have to survive in some way, okay? Happened already. Next, number 2, we have something called Jupiter square Mars. Now, something I want to tell you about Jupiter now, this one starts in March. Haven't started yet. Going to start 2 months from now. Okay, now Jupiter, and can you see, this is what I mean by similar transit stack up, which means that little red thing, now that planet is called Mars, okay? And that's the second Mars during that period, emotion, and then emotion. But Mars is not, Mars is action. Mars is action. Mars is action, aggression, and conflict, okay? And when Jupiter's in the 4th, sometimes people feel a little bit like Jupiter for right and wrong, integrity. Like, you know, then you have people on the street saying, like, I feel that should be this, I feel that should be that. You should expect, what we expect from March onwards is what I call addressing injustice. Okay? Astrology works in principles. It doesn't tell me, like, it doesn't specifically say what it is, okay? So when it's addressing injustice, it simply means that from March, some people have to feel that there must be an injustice, okay? So then you figure it out. Is there anything that happens reliably, February, March, every year, that might make some people feel a bit injustice, okay? Now, next one. Okay, now the third one is, well, there's a lot of astrology. Mercury retrograde cross heaven opposite moon. Ta-da! Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, now this one, the duration is a bit shorter, June, July. And that's what it looks like. Okay, now when Mercury, the purple thing at the very top, when it's crossing there, Mercury, some of you may know, communication. And when it's crossing the very top, it means communication from up there. Okay, got it? Okay, communication from up there. Then when it's an opposition like that, means it's like cross up, down like this. Sometimes there is a discussion. Sometimes it is a discussion, okay? And because it's hitting the moon, you see that there's a moon out down there, it's like, I think it's going to be a discussion about home, family, property, security, one of those things, okay? And what I expect to see is that there's some kind of either an announcement, a forum, a dialogue, a discussion, right? This happens on a country level. And I got no space, so I put A lah, okay? A for announcements, A for discussion, okay? So just for that. And now you see what I mean by stacking up? Stacking up, So basically, by March, some people get upset, and then in June, July, we have to talk about it. Now, number 4, now this one you should find familiar. Remember I said when Uranus changes houses, funny things happen. So this one repeat, And now it has another thing called trine moon. Now moon, again, for property, security, family, that kind of stuff. Now that one, I gave you the date before, okay? And so, just for you to recall, this is going to last 19 months. It starts in July. It may affect the stock market, banking, loans, insurance, CPF, taxes. Take your pick. Next, ta-da! It starts from July onwards, okay? So the stack up continues. There is a 5th one, and it's Mars retrograde opposite Mars. Let me tell you a little bit about astrology, okay? Now, Mars, you may have heard of men are Mars, women are from Venus. Mars in astrology refers to a masculine archetype. And therefore, when I teach astrology, I tend to demonstrate it. I think people learn better visually, okay? Mars means this. Got it? Okay, that's Mars, okay? And so, when you have Mars retrograde, opposite Mars, you decide what you get. You see that, okay? So, this is the principle of astrology. Now, the date is important. If you recall, I said that there's a line that the whole world is going to cross, and that's happening on the 22nd of December, 2020. Mars retrograde begins in August, and it ends, is the ending date that's important. It ends on the 21st of December 2020. After which, the very next day, 22nd of December, the new line begins. I have learned from 16 years of doing astrology that there's no such thing as a coincidence. Okay, so there we have it. Now, here's the thing. If you can see that this line cuts across the chart, and so far in Singapore's chart, every time we see something like that, Singapore is really peaceful, okay, like really peaceful. Every now and then, the people get a bit upset about things. Every now and then, right? And usually the pattern begins like this, okay? So, like an opposition like that. Now I'm going to show you, okay, you basically don't have to care about all the astrology. The only important slide is this one, okay? And the way I'm describing it is that you want action, you do not want diplomacy, you don't want an answer that sounds good. I am picking my words carefully here, okay? And so what I'm trying to show you here, there's nothing more by looking on the left side, where on this side, it's peaceful now, we are 18 Jan, just here. Nothing's happening. At most, some people a bit disgruntled maybe. And as it goes into March, which is just 2 months from now, you find that the plane starts moving a bit faster. By the time we get to June, July, it's moving really fast. And by the time it hits August, the turbulence begins. Okay? And here's the thing, I can tell you one thing, I do Singapore's transits every year because companies pay me to do this, okay? And so, why I'm making such a big fuss about this, because Singapore has never had a transit stack up like this in our 55-year history. We just never. So that means, is this something that we've seen before, guys, astrologically? No, we have never had a stack up like this, never. You know why I know? Because I did 55 years worth of calculations just to make sure. I did it all. Don't see anything like that. Haven't seen it. So, what's going to happen in Singapore this year? We haven't seen it before. Okay? And the period that you want to take note of is between March to 21st of December 2020. Now you understand why I have to do this in January. I don't have a choice. Okay? So, there is a third one, that Singapore has something in our chart which I nickname, it's not really an unemployment indicator. Okay, now I nickname it that way because every time we have unemployment problems in Singapore, like mass retrenchments, like companies closing down, that thing gets triggered, okay, which is why I call it the unemployment indicator. So, this indicator is that little key, green key looking thing in the 6th house. The 6th house is for work, and the green key thing is for a wound, a pain, something that hits you. And take note of the date. It's March 2021, not this year. Not this year. What this tells you is we have a bit of time. A bit of time before it starts happening. Everything that I've told you, right now you go out, you tell your friends, they don't believe. And that's one of the reasons why I told you, I will send you that video summary, right? Without the slides, without Maysim explaining, I don't know how you're going to explain to people, they're not going to believe you. Because right now it's peaceful, everybody's celebrating Chinese New Year, right? And so, March 2021, have a look at the dates. It runs all the way to February 2022. And it's like, seriously, like how many times do we need to see February 2022 showing up? So, when I see similar months coming up, that means things are happening. Okay, now the last time this unemployment indicator was triggered was in 08 to 09. Wasn't that long ago, about 10-ish years ago. And our unemployment rate soared after the Asian financial crisis. How bad was it? Some of us here are old enough to remember, right? Some of us have parents who lost our jobs during that time, right? And so don't take my word for it. I got government diagrams to show you, okay? And I'm not the best at reading these things, okay? I'm an astrologer, okay? And so I think what it suggests here is that unemployment might have been something like 50,000 people. That's a lot of people. Singapore population not that big. Like 50,000 people lost their jobs, okay? And so, but you see, what I would like to drive home to every single person here is that in 08, 09, there is a word that came out in the newspaper all the time. And in a few years, and this word is called recovery. You know, every time we have recession, every time we have like unemployment, the word that everyone gets obsessed about is called recovery. Because the idea is that Asian financial crisis simply meant that some companies were not doing well, which is why they let some people go. And when those companies and those industries recovered, what happened was they got their jobs back. Everyone clear on that? Now the problem with this time, when it's going to trigger in 2021, I'm not really sure that you are waiting for your company to recover. Because if your big brand MNC type person starts, like if Gap starts closing down, it's I use American one, so I'm safer. Okay, so American brand like Gap closing down. The thing is, are we going to sit around and wait for Gap to recover? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to recover. That's I spoke for hours just to get us to this point, guys. Right? So that means I'm saying that when this thing happens, some people are going to sit around waiting for a recovery because that's what Singapore has always done. Am I making sense? Every single time we've had those periods of like unemployment, what we've done is we waited. And then all the economists sit around and say, oh, we are predicting a recovery, blah, blah, blah. You know, this time around, I'm not sure there's going to be a recovery because it's not so simple. You're not going to be able to go to JobsDB and just apply for a job. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, so, and really, I mean, I delivered my talk all the way here just to deliver this punchline, guys. So that means the punchline is this: the jobs are going. It's not coming back. That's the point. And what this means here is that we kind of need to make some new plans. And when I say new, I mean new. Plans that you've never seen before. Okay, and you see, I realized I've given everybody a lot of information today. A lot. And I realized also that today is the first time that you're hearing this. Most of you do not know astrology. Some of you don't even know me. And even if you do know me, I have some pretty good friends here and you never heard this from me before because I have no idea how to tell you. Okay, and other than doing this. So what I want to say here is this, okay? Would you believe me if I told you that I saw this pattern as early as 2 to 3 years ago? Because I'm an astrologer, I do this for fun, right? And I read transits for fun, that's me, okay? But here's the thing, originally I thought that I made a mistake because I didn't go deep into it. So what happened was last year, I finally went deep and I did my calculations properly. And this thing, you decide whether you believe me here, okay? But in about April and May last year, I started doing serious calculations and I got very concerned. I'm not usually wrong, I'm known for my accuracy. Okay, and I got so concerned. Now, some of you here have known me for more than a year or two. You're on my Facebook. So you know if I'm lying or not, okay? In April, May last year, I got so concerned about this program, I stopped all my astrology activities. Do you recall that? I actually made an announcement I was going to stop. In fact, I stopped teaching astrology. I stopped doing consultations. Did you know what I did? I created a career transition program for no other reason other than to find a workable system. Have I ever done anything like that? I hadn't. Not last year. And I stopped it all. And for anyone here who's a business owner, I stopped all my revenue. Everything, just to do this, right? And for the one and only reason that I wanted to transition people from earth to air, simply because I had the information, I didn't think anybody was going to be convinced. And so what happened is, the moment I decided to do this event, a few weeks ago, when my team started marketing this event, I became obsessed, right? Here's the thing. I'm going to put myself in front of a few hundred people and I'm going to say some pretty major things. I was obsessed about making sure that my calculations are correct. I went through them over, I rechecked them, and trust me guys, there is no mistake. Maysim doesn't make mistakes, not like this, okay? And here's the thing, Singapore is going to go through this for sure. This is not if, this is when, okay? And the only thing that you need to look at is whether or not this timeline, what I've just presented to you, is even reliable, okay? And so what this really means here is, I realize everybody is very overwhelmed, okay? And if I may, I'd like to just run a very, very quick recap of what we have covered today, okay? I'd like to do a summary. Anybody here who has, if you'd like to, you can get a video summary. I'll do a better one, okay? First of all, I introduced you to this idea of a Jupiter-Saturn cycle, about how these elements are going to switch from fire to earth to air. Now, I did this just to show you that once an element changes for good, it doesn't come back. It's not going to come back until 1,000 years later. Now, if I use my plane analogy, it means that once the plane takes off the ground, that plane is not landing. Everyone got that? It's not landing. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that we have a very limited time to get on that plane. And I can really see how some people will be left behind. Okay? Now, that's going to disappear. No more. And what really happened when the Industrial Revolution began was that we became workers. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Earth era, okay? It gave us a good life. It gave us salaries. It gave us a structure to follow. You essentially knew that when you were 7 years old, you go to school. When you're 15, you decide what you want to do. You go to a polytechnic or something, you get some skills, you get a job, right? When the time comes, you buy a house. I mean, why am I doing this? I'm showing you that we have this life that we have accepted. This is the truth, right? We have accepted this and none of us have ever questioned it because our grandmother did that, great-grandmother did that, and so on and so forth, right? There's no reason for us to question this at all. But what happens here is that I'm suggesting that we are kind of going in that direction. And that picture is a bit scary for some of us. We don't recognize this. But you see, consider that if we had been living in the 1700s and you showed them a picture of the Industrial Revolution, they don't recognize it either. Okay? So this is where we are right now. We are on the threshold. There's just one more step just to get into the next. We're just very close. We're talking about 22nd December 2020. Guys, today is 18 Jan. We are 11 months away. That's how close it is. Okay? I'm not saying that we're going to be like this on 22nd of December, but the plane moves really, really fast from here onwards. Okay? And so I also covered how each of us here belongs in one of those categories. And depending on which category you are in, you are going to experience this transition in a completely different way. Now, if you are a bit old, if you are 60-something and above, you might not have such a hard time. You are in retirement mode, you can rest easy. If you're in the middle section, as I said, you are going to struggle because you don't understand this. Right? All these concepts, go on YouTube and trust me, you don't even understand half the videos that's there. Isn't that the truth, right? And so even if you are the millennial generation like me, and you have all these technology, you thought you're going to be okay, but what if we're going to take all of the things that we thought was going to be important? It became important to you, director is important, right? It's not important anymore. The younger generation, now here's the people who might not need me. Now here's the thing, I might need you, okay? And so, I also talked about all these industries that were at risk. Now this was the slide that I knew I was going to upset a lot of people, because if any of you have careers that belong on that list, and there are also people whose careers are not necessarily on that list, but it's indirectly involved, okay? But the thing is, I didn't want to be a complete doomsayer. To me, it's like that's not the kind of astrology we want to do. We wanted to get people to understand that when you look forward into the new world, once that plane takes off the ground, we're going to see the rise of the freelancer. And I think, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it. Okay, and the reality is I became a freelancer a long time ago. When I left my job, I was general manager of a height safety company. And I became manager when I was 24 years old. At the time when I wanted to quit my job at 26, my parents freaked out because I was drawing a very good salary. And my company paid for my car. I had a credit card that had no limit. My clients included Shell, ExxonMobil. These are truths, right? And at the time when they were building MBS, Resorts World, the Art Science Museum, all the white stuff that's around it, that's my claim to fame. I'm the manager that put in all the white stuff around it. I didn't build it, the Bangla workers did it, but I closed the deal. Okay, but my point here is that when I wanted to quit my job, my parents freaked out. And when they asked me what I was going to do, I said astrology. Some people are laughing, right? Yeah, that's how my parents reacted, right? And so the thing was, I became a freelancer a long time ago, and you know what? I haven't died. I haven't died. In fact, frankly, guys, I've done a lot better than as a manager. People thought I was amazing for being a GM at 24, but the thing is, I've got a lot further in astrology. And the truth is, I talked about how you could get a lot better by doing your thing. I just went and did my thing, and I did a lot better. You find that the rise of communities, right? And I said Singaporeans not very good at doing this, but we're starting, okay? We start to build networks, communities. I'd like you to think about the fact that if one day, what if you actually really did lose your job? What if this chick here is actually correct? And if you did lose your job, you can actually set up a business with just a table, a coffee, and an internet connection. You kind of need to develop some fundamental skills. I'm actually suggesting that many of us here have skills that are not recognized by society. There isn't a degree for it. There isn't a company that's going to thank you for the fact that you're very good at creating Running Man activities. You know what Running Man is? Like getting people to go and play a game. Like, is there a degree for it? I don't know. Like, there isn't a job description for this. And also, I suggested that you could do your own thing and actually do really well. This is the point I'm trying to make. And so the thing is, as we go off to air, I showed you my plane analogy, and that you should really be preparing for the fact that there's going to be turbulence in Singapore. And it's that short period, and I'm suggesting it's happening between August to December. And the funny thing is this, guys. Usually when I see transit stacking up, it just stacks up, and then it's like, it just goes on, and some people have a hard time. But what happens with this transit is that it goes like this, and then it's silent. So what I'm saying here is that that's why the more I looked at the calculations, I'm like, this is a plane taking off. Okay, and so I also showed you what was going to happen in Singapore 2020. Skipping all the astrology, this is where we ended up at. Okay, and so that's the plane going off by August, December. Guys, time moves really fast in Singapore. Now it's January, we are like saying Happy New Year to each other. Before you know it, it's Merry Christmas. That's the way it is. Isn't it? Isn't that the truth, right? The years go by. And the thing is, what are we going to do during this period? Have you started thinking? I mean, I set 2 breaks for you. I was hoping people started, loading, right? And so, and the thing is, now at this point, the fact is, I have delivered on my promise. When you first heard about my event, I made you 3 promises. I said I would tell you about what the world was going to go through. I also told you that I would tell you exactly which industries were going to be affected, and why and how. I also told you that I saw that Singapore had certain patterns that I think we may not like. I've gone deep into detail with all of those things. Now here's the thing, I could technically stop right here. And the thing is, I would have delivered my promise. But you see, as an astrologer, I've done this a long time, and people always want to know. People always want to know, that's why they book a consultation. They just want to know what's going to happen. But here's the thing, if I stop right here, I would have done a fantastic job of helping everybody know what's going to happen in 2020. And on top of that, I'm even giving you a video, so you will know. Trust me, you will know. You don't even have to memorize, okay? But the thing here is that what bothers me about astrology sometimes is that if you know, but that doesn't mean you're prepared. You see? And being aware and being ready is not the same thing. It's like if you know, you can say, oh, I'm aware, I know already. Okay, great, but it doesn't help you any. Remember at the beginning of this event, I said, well, if you go home with a stack of notes, and many of you have, I've seen you like jotting down your notes, you're going to go with a bunch of dates, bunch of pictures of my PowerPoints, like that's going to help you. It really isn't. And the fact is, if I stop right here, majority of you are going to know. You're going to have lots of notes, but majority of you are not going to be prepared. And frankly, that's not why I created this event. Okay, and so I sort of decided that I kind of needed to go a little bit further. And so I had to think, you see, what would an astrologer normally do? I will offer all of you consultations. Isn't that the thing, right? But here's the thing, that's not going to work, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because the thing is, I need to get specific. Right now, some people may complain, she's very general. She just talk about certain industries. Like, there's no way I'm going to get specific unless I have a look at each person's chart. But you see, look around, there's a lot of people here. And this is just the people who showed up today, I mean, there's a lot of people in Singapore. Now, it doesn't make any sense for me to do consultations one by one. I just can't, right? Because what's the problem? There's just too many people. There's just too many of you. And the thing is, even if I do nothing else from now until March, and remember the plane starts moving in March, and if I do nothing else between now, don't sleep, don't eat, do anything, I still can't do all of you. I really genuinely can't. And also there are too many circumstances. It's not like I can put people in groups and just do this. This is not a focus group. It's not going to be done that way. Too many circumstances. We need to do people one by one. The problem is there's just not enough time. 18 Jan now, pattern begins in March. Okay, and so the reality is that that's why I really started thinking about what I needed to do with this. And so I'm going to suggest something, right? I'm going to ask if it's going to be okay for me to work with a select few people. It doesn't have to be for everybody. Frankly, not everybody needs this. Some of you know what you're doing, and you don't think you need this, that's cool, right? But the thing is, I want to work with a select few people for the simple reason that they have questions right now. There's a big question, and where do I begin? I gave you a lot of information. Technically, right now, you could go into any industry. You could do anything right now. And what is it going to be? And if you're going to develop a fundamental skill, consider that for all these years, you've never been recognized for any kind of fundamental skill. They told you were an engineer, you were good at it, that's what you did. And the thing is, when you take the engineer away, what's going to happen? And you don't have a lot of time. So the question I'm going to ask you is that, now, is it going to be okay if I work with some people who kind of want to get more specific with me? If what I presented today is good enough for you, you just want to know, that's cool, okay? But I'm going to ask, now, is it okay that I get some people to ask some tough questions that you really should be asking yourself? And my students told you this, I'm good at it. And I'm good at astrology, but I have another talent, right? The other talent is that I can take very complicated concepts and I can bring it home to you. I make you understand how it's going to affect you. And I'm suggesting that this is going to be a great tool for you to make some preparations. Now, is it okay if I spend a little bit more time explaining? And the thing is, I'm not going to do it today. Everybody's tired. And I need to do another one. What do I need to do? I want to talk about how you're going to transition from right now what you're doing into something else. The Tokyo lady became from corporate into a baking person. Have you thought about how you're going to transition? And the other thing also is that I talked about how the audience has changed, right? And what are you going to offer this new audience? It's you've been doing one kind of trade. You never really thought about what you're going to offer if you're on your own. And the other thing is that who even is this new audience? Now, here's the thing. There is a reason why I've been consulted by so many magazines about millennials. And do you know how many companies have no idea what millennials want? And the thing is, and there's a reason why I have been featured on several millennial channels for the simple reason, and if you don't believe me, go look at some of these young people. They'll tell you I'm saying things that they understand. Right? Some of you struggle to keep up with what I'm saying, and these people, they know it. Right? Those of you who are parents, you know I know this. Right? And the simple reason is because astrology has told me how they operate. And how are you going to thrive financially using new methods? Now, just because I said that money is not going to be something that we are interested in doesn't mean that people are not going to make money. Look at PewDiePie, 30 million, right? So is money going out of style? No. I mean, money was in style from years and years ago. You know those old guys with the treasure chest of money. Money is not going out of style, but how we make money is going to be different. And if you're still using the old ways, salary, assets, stock market, I don't know, man. I'm not sure how many of those things are going to sustain. You decide for yourself, okay? And the thing is, how I'm going to do this is I'm proposing that the kind of people I want to work with, very simply, this is for you if you're on that list. You may not have a lot of time to decide what's going to happen to you next. Now, this is also for you if, frankly, this is not just for yourself, that honestly you have a family to feed. And the thing is, guys, I'm saying that people start losing their jobs from March 2021. What's your plan? Okay, and it's not okay to not have a plan. This is also for you if you are, quite frankly, not super young. And if I ask you to go and pick up something that's totally new right now, you have no idea what you're going to do. You kind of don't really have an official plan. This is what it is. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a totally pessimistic thing. In fact, I personally am very optimistic. I also think that this is a great opportunity for people who are a little bit sick and tired of the old money conversation. If you're a bit tired of going to work for companies that don't recognize your talents, this is a great opportunity to actually embark on something that's totally new. And it's also for you if you are the kind of person who doesn't like to rush and you want enough time to plan for a kick-ass career backup. Nothing else. Now, if you're going to buy an insurance policy, I got a feeling this is going to be a little bit more useful than an actual insurance policy. So you don't rush when things happen. So here's what I'm going to propose, okay? What this is going to be about is that we start look at some specific actions and specific plans. Right now, I simply told you that, okay, your industry is in trouble, but the thing is, what are you going to do? And so I'm talking about some practical options. So that means if for each person, trust me, you don't go to an astrologer to know like exactly what to do. The astrologer says these are the options, you decide. Because what happens is I'm going to use individual astrology charts. As I said, each of you here, you have a completely different astrology chart. What works for one accountant isn't going to work for another. And so we are going to be practical about this. That means it has to be correct to your current age. Something's not going to work for you if you're 45. At your current experience, at your current skill level, at your current resources. And also, the thing is, one of the other criteria is that it has to be tools that you can immediately apply. Why? We got no time, guys. And the thing is, if I'm going to give you some tools that will take you like 2-3 years to build up, that's not going to work either, right? And the thing is, the kind of people that I want to work with are those who are saying that, okay, how can we get this set up by August, by September, by October? So that the thing is, by the time the line comes, you are prepared. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to be like the world's most experienced business owner by that time, but you're going to have something. And so what happened is now, if you recall, I sort of mentioned that last year I did my calculations. And I told you also that I stopped all my money-making activities, absolutely. And I created a career transition program. And what this meant was that I looked for individuals who fit that category. That means what I'm describing to you guys right now is not something I created because I have a few hundred people here and I want to sell you something, okay? This is it's not something I created. I've done this for a year now. I've worked with a number of people. And why did I do that? Because I knew that this was going to happen. I knew that from March to December in 2020, this was going to happen. And at the time, I didn't know if I could help people at all. I knew I was a good astrologer. I didn't know if I could help you. And so what happened was I found a group of people who were willing to try this out with me. And I found people who wanted a career transformation. I spoke to them. They said, okay. They came to my program. And they helped me to sort out this system. And so I'm about to show you some of these people, and what I want you to look at is this. They are regular people. They're not anything special. They have jobs the same as you, schedules, incomes exactly the same as you. Some of them are millennials. Some of them are older people. And what I want you to look at, I don't care if you don't look at what they say. I like you to look at their faces. Okay? And these people have all committed to making a change in their career. That means they have all committed to letting go of what they currently do, everything that they've held on to for years, and they've gone and made a change. Some have already made it, some are on the way. It's done. Okay? And I want you to look at their faces and realize that they don't look scared. They don't look scared. They don't look skeptical. They look kind of sure. And they look like they're going to make this happen. Okay, now, the very first person I'm going to show you, her name is Kai Shan. She's actually here in the audience. Okay, now Kai Shan came to us as a commission salesperson. She makes a commission for making a sale, and her trait is one of those that's on the earth list. It is a very, very earth trait. And when she came to us, she was a little bit disillusioned. She wasn't sure that what she was doing was even sustainable. And trust me, at the time, she wasn't learning astrology yet. She started to feel it was not sustainable. And she's a very practical person. When she came to me, all she wanted was practical options. She hadn't decided yet if she wanted to do something, but she wanted to see what options were available. You can hear from her.
Very straight to the point, and she was giving very specific actions, very realistic options on how to do the things that I want. It is happily by doing the things that I like and also serving the people who I like to see. I think that is it.
Some of my participants are on the young side. I have somebody else who is a little bit younger. She has a good job. She works for an MNC. And there's nothing wrong with the job, other than the fact that the people there are a bit old-fashioned. And as a young millennial, she had a lot of ideas, but they were not listened to by the company. Now, in the program, she discovered that actually those ideas are viable. Perhaps not in the company that she worked in, but it was very viable. And on top of that, she even realized that, you see, when you're young and old people tell you that your ideas are stupid and unworkable, that's what I mean by a lot of us are looking at these fresh new ideas, and we're not really giving them the right perspective. Now, let me show you Yvonne, who works for an MNC.
Nobody in my life that can give me that kind of thing that they give me. My current rate is actually quite good. The life is actually well, but I'm not challenged enough. And I don't particularly love it that much. So whatever things that may expert me to actually thinking about exploring this whole business idea, it can potentially go up to 10 or 5 to 10 times more.
A lot of people are very scared of making a change because the first thing that you think about is a pay cut. Here's the thing, it usually isn't, right? Most of my participants, I don't encourage you to think about a pay cut. I'm asking you to think about money in a completely different way because the old way doesn't work anymore, right? And some of my participants are not so young. Some of my participants are in their 40s. I'm looking at people with decades of industry experience. Now, this is Mei Tan, and when she came to us, she is a construction engineer with multiple years of experience, very established. But the thing is, you see, she has a fundamental skill which is not recognized by her industry. In fact, by Singapore, like you don't know people who have this very fundamental skill. And what happened was when she came to us, is because I think she got a little bit tired. And I think this is the case for a lot of people who are between 40 to 60. You're kind of tired. There's a reason why. There's a word that goes around all the time. It's called passive income. Let me explain something. Now, I'm a psychological astrologer, and I don't think that people are looking for passive income because they're necessarily trying to be a millionaire. I think people are looking for passive income because they're just trying to find a way to survive without having to work. They're not interested in the money, they just don't want to work. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, so the point here is that what Mei Tan discovered was that being freelance meant a quality of life of your own choice.
I'm doing freelancing and I actually get to do what I want to do. It's not about the money issues, but it's the quality of life I get.
But you see, the fundamental skill that Mei Tan has is that she's very good with cats. Meow, cats. And here's the thing, when she came to our program, it took me at least half an hour just to get her to say what her dream was. She had a dream. She was just very shy. She didn't want to say what it was. And she said her dream was to set up a cat sitting business. Her dream is to be surrounded by cats all day. Okay? And so after the program, she took a challenge from me, and she actually went and set it up. And so she took our program in July last year. So if you do your math, that's about 7 months ago. You see, in this time, Mei Tan has not only just quit the original construction job that was giving her so much stress, Mei Tan has actually set up her cat sitting business. And not only that, she now has a community of cat owners as well as other cat sitters that she works with because you can't take care of all the cats. And also, here's the interesting part. Now, she did not discover this at CTW. She discovered this after she set up her business, was that she could do joint ventures with Grab drivers to provide cat transport service. Okay, Mei Tan has quite strangely enough become an entrepreneur. Okay, now last week she was at my office and she shared something with me which was excellent news. See for yourself.
Okay, hi. I'm here with May Tan. She's one of our participants. It's actually January now, 2020. And May Tan actually completed your CTW in July. August. Okay, so it's been about maybe about 4 or 5 months. And when you first came to us, you were essentially at a full-time job as a construction engineer. Yes, correct. And at the time, you were very scared to say whether or not you get to do your testing. Okay, so it's January now, it's near the Chinese New Year period, and can you just say that you told me you're fully booked?
Yeah, fully booked. From January to February. Yeah, so I so I think we don't know the process quite good actually now.
Guys, I'm not going to pretend here, okay? Now, May Tan is here in the audience. May, can you stand up and can you wave at them, please? That's May Tan. May Tan is in her 40s. She's moving from construction engineer, your proper job, into cat sitting, which by the way is improper job, just so you know. And so the thing is, it was difficult. Now I'm going to say it was difficult, but she's done it, right? And right now, to a lot of my students, she's an inspiration. Okay, I would not say this if this is not the truth. Now I also have other participants. This is Hui Ming, and she had a very successful job in pharmaceutical sales. She was doing really well. Hui Ming also has a dream. She wanted to set up a Reiki business. And the problem was she didn't think that a spiritual career was a viable thing. Now, there are some of you here who deal with the spiritual, and perhaps you look at someone like me, you mean you can be an astrologer and actually make a decent income? Well, yeah, you can, okay? And so what happened is she did our program. Hui Ming was from my very first batch. She was one of the people who took good faith in my program. She took it, and that was in June, which is about 7, maybe 8 months ago. So in these 7, 8 months, not only did she quit a job, she set up a Reiki center. She has a Reiki center right now. They have regular activities. And on top of that, she has built a community. That means the Reiki center does not just serve her own activities. She is also giving support to other spiritual practitioners. So you realize that when you take this step, you can provide support to others as well.
I could dream of doing a career switch, and that is something valuable to me because I never thought I could. I wanted to, but I was so afraid to do it. She made me see that it is noble. That is how it's really personal. It's not even valuable, it's personal. When you work out the stuff, I can actually earn at least 2 to 3 times more than what I am already doing now. Thank you very much for doing what you are doing. What you are doing will definitely benefit a lot of other people. So, and I'm happy that I'm one of them. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, Hui Ming was being very kind, okay? And Hui Ming is here in the audience as well. Hui Ming, can you stand up and wave, please? She's done it. Pharmaceutical sales to Reiki center. Right? And she's doing it full-time right now, giving support to other people. Now, so far, I've covered mostly examples of employees who have gone freelance. Right? You all got that. It's employees who are going freelance. And there's a group of you here who are business owners. That means you already freelance, okay? Now, what I'm suggesting here is not that your business is going to go south necessarily, but I'm also suggesting that your target audience has changed. So that means you may not be able to target the same kind of audience providing the same kind of product. And what I have on the screen here is, his name is Derek Chu. He has a bit of a famous face, so you might have noticed him from somewhere. But he's done a lot of things. He has been a restaurant owner, multiple restaurants actually. He's been a theatre director. He's been a producer. And right now, he's an international speaker for media branding. And you see, when I first met Derek, he was extremely skeptical because I told him I was an astrologer. He was like, okay, right? And now after he did our program, he realized he got very enthusiastic about a concept that I care about very much, which is called the natural audience. What I'm suggesting here is that for each of us here, there is a natural audience who is attracted to you. They like what you have. And anyone here who's ever done sales, right? You don't even have to raise your hand. Anyone here who has ever tried to sell to somebody who is not your natural audience, it's painful. But you realize that when you go to the natural people who like what you have, and they have the same values as you, things get easier. And this is what Derek says.
I usually have expectations, but people who always speaking to you, this person is very normal. This person is very real. And you are a business owner, so you understand, like business, careers, and operations. So the more we spoke, the more I felt very comfortable simplifying very complicated concepts that was very relevant. I think first thing I was very interested in was beauty, that the term was related to the natural audience. And with that very point, this is how you respond the wise so keen on how to understand that is understand that meaning, understand the problem, and from there, create something that can help solve.
So essentially, even as a business owner, you see, here's the thing, guys, I'm not a business coach. I'm not going to teach you how to run a business. Most of you have much more experience than me. But you see, my expertise is not in setting up a business. My expertise is reading your chart and telling you what is that fundamental skill that you are very good at. When I take away your status, I take away your job ranking, I take away that space that you have in your salary payroll, what's left? I don't know what's going to be left. And this is exactly what I want you to be looking at. So I have decided that this is going to be a one-day program. Now, why is it a one day? It has to be at least a day, right? I want to sit down with people. I want to be able to get to know into their charts. And how come I can't make it longer? I need more time to work with more organizations. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work specifically with this program. And in fact, I've decided to call it How to Thrive in Turbulent Times. Now, I'd like you to pay attention to this. Now, I could have called it How to Survive in Turbulent Times. But here's the thing, I don't want you to survive. I want you to thrive. And the thing is, if you've seen what my participants are saying, this is not just about surviving. You find that a lot of my participants have realized quality of life improves. How are you going to put the dollar value on that? I don't know, okay? But the thing is, there are people who've said that when they worked out the sums, they could potentially do 2 to 3 times of what they're doing. There are steps to be taken here. Now, I want you to notice the date. We have to do this in February. Why? Because the plane starts moving in March. We don't have time, guys. And if we do it in February, it means that you have some time to set things up. Now, I'd like you to consider that Mei Tan and Hui Ming did their programs in June and July last year. Now, today, they have activities going because, guys, let's be realistic here. You're not going to set something out in a month or 2. You won't. So that means if I start now, there's a good chance you could get yourself ready by September, October. Now, if you think that you're going to set something up in 2 or 3 months, you can try. Okay? And so the thing is, I prepared for this as early as 2 to 3 years ago. That's the reason why I looked for these people and I told them, work with me. Now, this is going to be at Suntec City Convention Center, and we're going to do a one day. Now, at this point, I really need to ask people, okay? The question is, if I'm going to spend a day getting some specific plans for you, that means when you walk out of my program, it's very simple. You should have a blueprint. There should be at least a couple of options that are workable. And it's not for like, oh, all the accountants do this or all of the engineers do this. Look, how many engineers here think you can be a cat sitter? Get my point? So the point here is that whatever you come out of this is going to be specific to you and you only. Now, it's possible that what comes out of the program means is something totally different from what you have been doing for a long time. That's fine, because it's going to be based on your fundamental skill. Now, the question I'm asking you here is that now, if you get a backup plan between now and December, that you should even get a sense of what you could do for yourself. Now, can I just ask, is it fair for me to charge? Is it fair for me to say that at least I get compensated for my time, 1 day of my time, and so that I apply my fundamental skill for you to say, these are your options. Now, is it fair that I charge? Okay. And so the thing is, there are a couple of things that I'd like you to know. Number one is that this course comes with a money-back guarantee. For the simple reason, I've done this for 16 years and I'm never wrong. And so, why do I do this? Why do I give you a money-back guarantee? It's because I want this to be risk-free. That means if you walk into my program, at the end of the day, if I don't help you, I don't give you anything that you can work with, you get your money back. It's that simple. right? And the reason why I can give you this is because I'm extremely confident, right? That as long as you come in here with the intention of taking an action, because frankly, if you walk into that program and all you want to do is, hey, I just want to know what my child, then you're not going to get the same kind of results as what Mei Tan and Hui Ming are doing. And what's the most important thing is that after you complete this program, what happens? Much happens. You will know very quickly whether or not I'm worth my salt. Okay? And now the other thing that I'd like most of you to know, okay, but you see, on the other hand, however, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make this a one-time offer. For the simple reason, because this is February. And the thing is, if I don't make this a one-time offer, then you know what's going to happen? People are going to come ask me, can I do this in April? Can I do this in May? You know, this happens all the time, right? People go like, okay, I want to think about this, I want to go. You see, if this was any other program, go ahead and think about it, okay? But guys, if I'm offering this in February, this is the only way that you're going to have enough time. It really is. Okay, so here's the thing. I've decided to do this because I've decided that it's going to be today, because what happens is tomorrow you come in, it's going to be twice the price. Now, I'll tell you why I do this. I call this Thrive, simply because I only want to work with Thrivers. The question here is, I don't want to make sure that you just survive. Let's do this properly. And on top of that, you see, I don't want to work with people who are pessimists. If you're going to say, I'm not sure, I'm skeptical, okay, keep your skepticism, right? Because the thing is, you're going to find out. And this kind of thing is not about whether you can make it in February or not. Because you see, with all the changes that's happening in February 2020, are we okay with moving a couple of appointments around in February? Or you rather wait till August and see if the turbulence actually happens? Okay? And so, it's going to be either today or the price is going to be double. Now, but here's the thing. The question is that, what is this going to be worth to you? And the reality here is that, guys, I really thought about this, okay? And you need to decide once and for all if May is doing this to make your money. Decide if I'm doing this to make your money. Did I really speak for 5 to 6 hours to do what, 27? That's not why I'm doing this, okay? Now, the only result that I'm asking people to get out of this is exactly what Mei Tan and Hui Ming got, which was that if you take that job away, I took 5 hours just to tell you that that job's not going to be there. Right? You can choose to believe it, you can choose not to believe it. There's not much I can do there. But the reality is that when we take that away, and when you have to offer a fundamental skill to people, is it possible that somebody can be a cat sitter? And I'm not doing anything else other than asking people to do what is fundamental to you, do what you like, work only with people you like, and actually make a decent living. Now, even if you don't believe that you're going to make 2 to 3 times what you currently make, the reality is you're going to make a decent living. I'm talking about you covering your costs. Okay, so now the question here is that you've heard from some of my participants here that what the result that they get out of this is potentially careers and businesses that generate 2 to 3 times more. And I'll be frank here, most of my clients are not low-income earners. And even if you came in and you don't make all that much money, maybe you make about $30,000. Okay, but even at that, if you make 2 to 3 times more, isn't that at least worth $60,000 to $90,000? Now, why do I put numbers like this? Because I've done it. I've done it for people. And the question that you also want to ask, and I know what happens at an astrology event. Everybody comes and asks me if they want to do, if they could do a consultation with me. And I'll tell you one thing, okay, it's January, which means that my phone rings off the hook. People are trying to set up consultations, but there's something I need everyone here to know. Nowadays, I only ever do business advisory, for the simple reason that a business owner is trying to help more than just himself. I'll be very, very clear and straight and direct here. Most people want to do a consultation because they're concerned for their career. That's very straight here. Now, nowadays, I only do business advisory for business owners and organization leaders, because when they make a decision, they're actually trying to help people a lot more than themselves. And so the thing is, if you want to ask, like, how much do I normally charge nowadays? You want to know, right? And the thing is, now, if you walk into my office right now, what I charge for my business advisory right now for a 2-hour consultation, for one-time consultation right now is $2,000 for a 2-hour consultation. This is my current rate. I was recently engaged by Facebook. This is the kind of rates I charge nowadays. And so the question that you really want to ask is that then how much would it worth to be spending 8 hours with me, 10 to 6 in a one-day thing. And I want to remind you, what you're going to get out of this is simply exactly what I do for people in a consultation anyway. It's exactly what I do for you. I look at your charts, I do a career profile, we have a nice, honest conversation about what makes sense for you. And I said it's dependent on your age, it's dependent on your circumstances, it's dependent on what you're capable of doing. We all seen our nice little science fiction image there. Anyone think you can get there immediately? Frankly, no, probably not. And so you want to be realistic about what you can do and something that you can take action in the next 7 to 8 months. So that means my rate right now is about $1,000 an hour. And what this means, for one day's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. of my time, we're looking at $1,000 times 8 hours. It could be up to $8,000. Now, some of you will go like, now, does it make sense for somebody to spend $8,000 with me? It might, if I make $90,000 more for you. And that is the reason why, even at my rate, I am currently still fully booked as a business advisory consultation. As I told you, I'm selective with my clients. I really only want to work with people in organizations, and it's nothing to do with the fee. It is much more to do with how many people are we reaching at any one time. You see, guys, I want to tell you something here. I'm going to practice what I preach. I am practicing what I preach. For the simple reason that if we are doing something for a profit reason, that's not going to work. I've essentially spent 5 hours telling you that anything that's done for a profit reason is not going to work. I am trying very hard here to do a community change. I'm speaking right now, look around, I'm speaking to a few hundred people. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to do community change. Simply because the mindset of the old thing just isn't going to work anymore. And so I've decided, now let's be clear here, okay? It's not going to be $8,000. I'm not crazy, guys. I'm not crazy, and I told you I'm not doing this for profit. Okay, and I'm very clear, and I want to be very clear with all these people here that if you decide to do this program, you come in because you're here for your own career. Am I making sense? Right? So that means if you want to work for an entire organization, you want to help more people, then we start talking about consultation. But what I'm proposing here is for people who are not thinking that far. You're thinking about your own livelihood, your own plan. That's all I'm saying. Okay? The program is How to Thrive in Turbulent Times. I'm doing it 15 or 22nd February. Both of these dates are Saturdays. What happens is you choose one. We're going from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's 8 hours. I'm going to work with a select group. It depends on how many people in that group. We will put you in, we will make sure that you go home with a group profile. We make sure that you have some kind of plan. And again, I want to repeat, there is a money back guarantee, which means that at the end, at 6 p.m., if you decided this is crap, this didn't help you, I didn't get any kind of plan, then what you do is you go to my guys, you get your money back. Right? That is my plan. Now, can anyone agree here that this is risk-free? Okay? So that means if I don't help you, you get your money back. And there's the reason why I need a one-time offer is simply because I actually want people to take action. For the simple reason of that. We don't have time. We do this in February so that there's going to be time to implement the plan. We do this any later, we might not be on time. Okay, so it's not going to be 8,000. I've decided that my fee, here's what you're going to get. First of all, practical options. I promise I'll look at your chart. There will be solutions specific to you and you only. We're going to consider all of these tools that you can immediately apply. And actually what I really want to do is really just to transition. And on top of that, frankly, to be even more successful than before. A lot of people don't believe this. And trust me, I've honestly been a lot more successful as an astrologer than I ever was as a general manager. And you see, the fee that I have decided for this program is $597. For $597, for $597, I'm asking you to spend 8 hours with me, one entire day, simply looking at your profile, walking away with a blueprint for some practical steps that you can take. And it's not even going to be anything very complicated for the simple reason, seriously, what are you going to be able to do in 6 to 7 months? The idea is that you create something that you can offer to your natural audience, understand who you're working with. And you know, guys, you can see here there's a genuinely crazy offer. I've gotten to a point in my career where Mason doesn't really charge fees like that anymore. Okay, some of you have followed me for a while. You know for a fact that in last year, I stopped everything just to do a career transition program. I worked with some people. Frankly, I needed to know that it worked. And I know for a fact it works. So right now, I can tell you that at this stage in my career, you cannot even do my most basic astrology program at this price. You cannot. Right? There are some people here seated in this audience who do my basic astrology program. It's not 597. Okay? And the thing is, now, before I go any further, okay, and I tell you, I really intend to do something very special for the people here. There's nothing else here except for a plan. Like I said, this is a money-back guarantee. You do this just to get prepared, okay? Can I just get a show of hands? How many people are thinking about doing this? Okay. Can I get you to stand, please? Thank you very much. Right? And so, what I'm asking everybody here to think about, okay, now you spend a day with me, and I will work. Please remain standing. Thank you very much. Okay. And for these ladies who are standing, thank you for taking action. Right? And I would like you, if you can, please make your way to that table. I'm going to offer something very, very special right now. I'm going to make this even easier for you ladies. Okay? Now, for the ladies who go to the table, within the next 1 minute, I'm going to give you a $200 discount. Okay? I'm going to turn this down to $397. Okay? And for the rest of you who are seated, I really want you to think about, what am I really offering you? It's a simple career profile. What you're going to walk away with is a simple plan. This is, at the very least, what you get is an insurance backup. Let's just say I'm wrong. Let's just say you don't get this. Does anybody actually honestly think that this is not going to be the case? The truth is, I'm offering everybody a risk-free money backup, okay? And so, guys, I'm going to make this real easy, okay? The thing is, I want to work with thrivers. Please hold on for a second there, okay, guys? Please just hold on for a second. Now, I want to work with thrivers for the simple reason that if you're the kind of person who needs to think, go home, pray, ponder, start thinking about things, the reality is, I'm not really sure if you might, the fact is, I don't want to work with those people because I have a feeling that you're going to miss that plane. Right now, I'm simply looking at a plan for people who are actually realizing that you have to decide for yourself whether I'm lying to you or not. I simply tried my best to put as many people into this room as possible simply because I'm telling you that your plan needs to work for the new generation. Now for these people, I'm going to open right now for registration. I'd like everyone else here to give good consideration to what I've said. This plan is something that you can definitely use. The idea is that you have something that you can do in the next 6 to 7 months, okay? And I'd like to thank everybody here for this program, for coming here today. And if for nothing else, I'd like you to realize that the change is coming. And I'm asking you to spend no more than just 1 day with me. Honestly, sit down with me, and I'll do your charts. Get your natural audience, find out who is it that you can serve, what is it that you can offer to them, right? And with that, for everybody, I'd like to thank you for being here today. And please assist me. Please share this with as many Singaporeans as possible. This is the real only reason why we are doing this, okay? And for the people who are signing up, very much, I will make my preparations. Please select your date, and I will see you in February. Thank you very much.